Hello and welcome, ladies and gents. Hope you can all see us, hear us, and all of the good things. Welcome back to Two and a Half Talent. It has been about a couple of weeks. You actually kept to the schedule for once, which is pretty rare for us. So good to see. Thank you for joining us. Of course, we're back again. We're talking everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, but this time we're joined for the first time ever on the Two and a Half Talent podcast. We've got a guest there. We've got the man, the myth, the legend. We've got NartOutHere, single-handedly propping up the pro scene right now. Brother, thank you very much for joining us, first of all. I know you're an extremely busy man, so I appreciate it. How have you been?
Thank you guys for having me. Pleasure to be here. And can't wait to start the show here. Can't wait to tell you all about myself.
Well, I mean, we can start with that. I think we're going to make this a new thing. Whenever we have guests on, we did it when we first started our first episode into last year. How did you get involved in CSGO? I think everybody kind of has a different story and a different way of how they got involved, not only in terms of playing, but of course now what is a kind of a career for you as well. So how did all of that start?
Okay, so I wanted to get into CSGO like esports wise, or do you want me to go from like how I got like into the game?
Everything.
Honestly,
Cover
you
all the
can do both,
bases. Yeah.
you got
Oh
both,
my
yeah.
gosh. Okay. I'll make it brief about how I got into the game.
Sure.
So the majority, like a lot of people got into CS by family, right?
Mhm.
Or friends. That's how I got into it. My cousins were playing CS one day. I went over their house, got me hooked,
Mhm.
and then came home the next day and started downloading. I downloaded the game, played 1.6. I wasn't too good in 1.6. Moved over to Source, moved over to Go, and then at that point, I wanted to possibly pursue coaching.
Okay.
So I don't have any high level playing experience or coaching experience, but I reached out to a couple of advanced teams in NA, and Stamina, who is currently the player IGL of Strife, he actually responded to me saying, "Yeah, we'd love to try you out," compared to all these other teams denying me right away. So that's how I got into esports. So I coached for 2 seasons, and then I was making content at the same time. Like breaking down strats was my main
Sure.
thing. And how I got into YouTube, first off, is before coaching, me and my friends were playing ESA Open for fun.
Mhm.
And we would go on YouTube and search like CSGO Pro Strats.
Right.
And no one really at the time, this was back in 2019, 2018, nobody was really covering tactics. So I decided to give it a shot. And then one thing led to another. I started posting my content on Global Offensive Reddit. So shout out to them.
Of course.
And then Thorn saw my content, and then he posted my content on Twitter. And then some pros started following me, which motivated me to
Okay.
put out more content. So I've been just putting out content on a weekly basis.
Fair enough. And when you first started, did you ever expect it to kind of get to where you are now in terms of you were kind of posting? I remember when you first came over the scene because that's when I was getting involved in Twitter, and it was kind of you obviously with now you're kind of the go-to when it comes to any kind of utility or anything like that. Even I see you get shout outs quite often by pro players. People obviously a lot of people watch your videos. Do you ever expect it was going to get to this sort of stage?
So initially I did not, but a lot of my real life friends, they doubted me. They're like,
Okay.
so I would spend time like they would invite me to play, but I would tell them no, I can't play right now. I have to watch these demos. I have to make a video. They're like, oh, you're not gonna
Fair.
go anywhere. You're not gonna go anywhere with it. I'm like, okay, watch.
Just
So it just like in the back of my mind, it just motivated me to just keep going,
mhm.
and then like look where I'm at now. So I proved them wrong, and I'm still continuing. Like it still motivates me to put
Yeah.
out this type of content.
And just as well, you also do you have a job as well, right? If I'm right in saying as well as
Yeah, so
doing
I
the
work
YouTube
as
stuff.
I work as a nurse full
Okay.
time actually. Not
So you're
not
a
not a lot
busy
of people
man.
know that. Yeah, so I
Jesus.
I I save people's lives, outside of the game and in the game.
In the
I mean, what's your work schedule like that? I'm assuming you're pretty much full time, right? If you're doing that, it seems extremely labor intensive. Like, how do you find time to do
Mhm.
both?
So I used to work in the hospital, but
Mhm.
now I do have the opportunity to work from home now.
Ah,
So
okay.
that actually frees up some of my time to watch demos and to
Watch
work on
demos.
content. And yeah.
Fair enough. And I guess, just to kind of bring us all involved, we normally kind of go over what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. And Paladin and Trav, you want to kickstart us there? What we've been up to since we last convened, which I think was about 2-3 weeks ago.
2-3 weeks ago. Put me on the spot. Nothing much. I mean, I brought back Rescope with Thorin. We just put out a new episode recently, and that's been doing really well. It's always exciting to chat history with him. Really kind of puts me on my toes to make sure that I've got all the details ironed out. So there's been a lot of research doing for that, and I started uploading a little bit more often, trying to hit that weekly hit every time. I feel like I've been avoiding putting out content, but I feel like we're back on that again. And then ECL's been rolling around. We were done with regular season, and we discussed about it a little bit beforehand, but we'll be all carrying on with the playoffs. So it's nice to kind of see the season out and look forward to the playoffs.
Easy. Trav, what have you been up to?
Well, really, mostly just keeping an eye on Pro League consistently, because I obviously for a while I think this new setup and this new style of Pro League that they're running is superb, and it makes a much better watching experience. All the skits they've been doing, the Wolf of Wall Street one, I believe, with Stunner and Hugo, was an absolute classic. Brilliant. So yeah, I've been trying to keep up to date with as much of that as possible. You know, play some Apex, play some CS, keep myself fresh. That's about it, really.
Fair enough. And I guess
our next gigs.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I've done a bit of casting here and there. Did I just finished the Blast Qual, which I guess we can talk about at some point, which is kind of now lining up Blast Spring. I don't know if you know it's the best time to talk about it now or closer to the time. Actually, no, I think it starts in like a week. So maybe we can even talk about it at some point today, later down the line, but of who's locked into Blast Spring EU. But just finished doing a couple of those. So Cloud9 made it through East, and Copenhagen Flames very narrowly made it through the Nordics qualifier over Ecstatic, which was, even that was a bit of an upset. Everyone expected Sprout to win it, but we've kind of already been there multiple times, and we will come on to Sprout.
Sprout was in that bracket.
Yeah, in the Nordics qualifier, they were number 1 seed, should have made it, and then final day they lose out to Copenhagen Flames 2-1 in the best 3 when they were like completely in control. They should have won the series 2-0, and then they lost their map pick, and then they fucked it. Basically, it was pretty rough. So all in all, Sprout. Well, we're gonna come to Sprout at some point, and you'll probably understand why. I think probably what we should start with is kind of just go over general summary. We talk about EPL. I guess we'll start with that, and then we'll move on to like Source 2 rumors sort of thing. So we can start with EPL. I guess, I mean, who was the Kickstarters? So last time we only covered Group A. I remember that. That was the last thing we had done. We just gone over Group A. Now we have finished all the groups, and we're just about to start playoffs tomorrow. So, well, I mean, I guess we can kickstart from Group B for the most part. I think we kind of predicted essentially everything, if I'm right in saying. I don't think there's really any major upsets.
I think the more surprising qualifying team was Movistar, I think, overall.
Right. And Big also dropping out. We didn't have Cole have that bounce back that we were looking for to kind of replicate the form that they showed at Katowice. We said that, you know, if we want to put their money where their mouth is, they would actually qualify and they would live up to their ranking. They've actually gone even higher to 8th, but I don't necessarily feel like it's completely warranted just because of the teams that they lost to. I think losing to Movistar is unacceptable. All in all, it's again a very fantastic performance from, I think, Mopaz impact-wise. And Martinez show that he can still op. He's still very, very talented, but I don't think it's very replicable. It feels very reminiscent to Movistar's run last time that they went deep, and I don't think that they're going to do anything in the playoffs. I think it's more so an indictment on how streaky Complexity is as a team and how far Big is currently falling, because I think a big conversation right now is whether or not they even make the major, because I'm not really confident about them as of right now, especially with the kind of replicable form that they showed. It's just non-existent. I mean, it's a lot of it comes down to hyped, and I would never want to put all my eggs in the basket of a youngster that has never played really any lands. This is his first land, pretty much, right?
I mean, you played like one, like they're Prem.
He played Philadelphia, so.
Oh, did he? Oh, yeah, shit. Yeah. Of course, Big Academy came over, and they played. I think when they for their version of like Premiership, which used to qualify to conference. I think they do a LAN for that. They definitely used to in Berlin. I like the Freaks for You studio. So he's played small time lands essentially. But I gotta say though, he's pretty good. Like I'm quite
Oh, he's
impressed with
good.
him. Like
Yeah,
he's
for sure.
I casted his first his debut game when it was like even then he was just a stand-in and he wasn't actually meant to stay long term. And then he ended up just staying long term because CS obviously did his own thing. But he was talented. I remember on Nuke he dropped like 24 kills, but it was at the cost of Tabson going like triple negative, which is obviously not what you want to do because Tabson's arguably one of the best riflers that our team's ever had, or probably is the best rifler that our team's ever had. So I think the big thing for me was making sure that they actually play as a team, because what they were doing was essentially it was allowing Hype to do whatever he wants, just free roam, do whatever you want, like do your own thing, and then Tabson would just pick up the slack, which meant that he had a terrible performance. I think they ended up still losing anyway, but he was like still super positive. So on paper, it looked really good as a debut, but as a team, it was like kind of iffy. But it seems like they've plugged a lot of those issues. They look a little bit more, I guess, formulated.
I think so. I definitely feel as though that Tabson is always going to get the short end of the stick, and if he's having to kind of micromanage Hype as time goes on, which is going to have to happen, they're going to have to find a way to kind of bottle him in and make sure that they can use him to kind of how Tabson wants to play. I think now what's really important is now you've got to really put the kind of chips on the table with Crimbo and Keto, and you've got to make sure that they're performing on a regular basis, because if Tabson's not going to do it, you've got to find firepower elsewhere.
Yeah.
And as we've seen, again, I think Crimbo and Keto are very streaky. We can see some very high highs from both of these players, but it's not to a point where I'm like, oh my God, like this team has a firepower core that would just blow people out of the server. I feel like it's pound for pound, maybe max top 10, if that, on the day. So that worries me going into kind of the biggest events that we're looking forward to in the RMR. And I feel like they won't be able to peak in time, because we're probably going to get into it at the end of the show, but there are some really good teams that have yet to grace the land stage that could just surprise and shock some of these teams that are kind of on the fringes of making it in. We'll go through it with Group C and D, but I think Big is definitely one of those teams that's on the fringes of just like not making it through, maybe not even making LCQ stage, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. I mean, for you, not in terms of how you view the game. I assume, do you view things a little bit different in the sense that you're obviously looking for content quite a lot as well? So for you, it's like, you know, you're watching the game, but if someone pulls out a little gimmick with the Util, you're like, hang on, here we go.
Oh my God, I get too excited when I see something new.
How often do you see stuff new now, though? Like, surely you're, in my mind, I feel like, you know, all the gimmicks are starting to be cleared out for the most part. Now that Anubis is now starting to be figured out. Or not for you? Or did you think that there's always new stuff that's coming up?
It just depends on like who I'm watching. So like teams like Heroic, Big Clan, those two teams, I know I'll find something new every time I watch something. Okay. So that's why you see like in this group B, Movistar Riders. Actually, when Kaden was casting with the trio, he said during the Movistar Riders game that they were running a lot of setups at Heroic that like they ran themselves.
Okay.
So when I was watching demos, I saw a little bit of that.
How like for you when you kind of, so for example, you know, a group finishes and there's normally like a couple of days in between. How much do you spend in terms of like demo reviewing from that group, or is it only very specific things that get pointed your way that you look towards, or do you demo review the vast majority of games if you can?
I try to watch all the matches, honestly, but if it's like
good effort,
but if it's like, let's say like group D or Group B, go back to Group B, like Imperial versus All. I didn't watch that one.
Okay.
So it just depends. Like I try to put like the tier 1 teams first, and then if I have time, then I'll watch maybe Imperial versus All.
So you said you're working from home. Are you locked away from like the CS world when you're doing your job at home, or can you actually have like Pro League on the side while you do your job at home?
Yeah, I could have like on my second monitor, I could have Pro League on the side, but it's very hard for me to multitask for the type of work that I do.
Fair enough.
What type of work do you do where it's like you're a nurse but you're from home? Is it like kind of if someone's
it's health insurance. So I have members where like I help them get like resources they may need, like finding special doctors, getting them medical equipment.
Right.
So it's an awesome job. Dude, I love this job. So that's part of the reason why I don't like want to pursue coaching.
Okay. You'd be too busy.
But like coaching is very sporadic, meaning like you could lose your job in like 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And I have like a dream job, I would say. So
So for you, no matter how big kind of YouTube or the content side of things get, are you always going to be pretty locked in and saying like you want to stick doing your kind of nursing job as well?
yeah, I want to stick with what I'm doing now, unless like a crazy long-term deal comes out of nowhere. So I've had offers from like multiple tier one teams,
Okay.
but not as the main coach, like analyst or assistant head coach.
Mhm.
And that's just not what I'm looking at right now for me to quit what I'm doing
Would it have to
to
be head
pursue that.
coach? Like,
Yeah, it would have
like
to
a
be head
tier
coach
one
with
head
a
coach.
long-term deal.
Ah, okay, so locked in, like
Yeah.
minimum 3 years kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for
Listen
sure.
up, S tier orgs. He's put the
Yeah.
price on the table.
there we go.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll quit content to do that. So,
I mean, it might
yeah.
even help in a way, right? I guess because like if a coach, you probably do a lot of demo reviewing anyway. Just take a little bit of it for the old content.
Mhm.
You can two birds with one stone. I mean, that's double payday. I mean, you're loving life then. You're living it
For
up.
sure. Well, speaking of which, what do you guys think about like that Jake Lucky tweet last week about pros? Like he
Oh,
thinks
let me
pros
get
should be
this
making
up.
content.
Let me. I think did we briefly like we obviously like, kind of have our little kind of group chat. I think we might have briefly. Let me try and find it. It was. I'll get it up for those who haven't seen. But do you want to explain the essence of it? Not while I find it.
I think he tweeted. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. He said pros should be making content. Is that what he something like along
Essentially,
like
yeah.
that? Outside of
I'll find it.
doing what they do.
And like, if you look at his tweet, and then you saw, I think Messioso from Complexity talk about it, talking about their travel days.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no space in the calendar for them whatsoever. They're living out of hotels, literally pretty much 90% of the time. It's just ridiculous,
Yeah.
and that's probably one of the reasons why in Group B maybe they didn't play as well as we thought they would, because I was sort of, after seeing their results in Qatar, I was thinking they could probably cement themselves as a tier 1.5 team, but as you can see, it's very hard to sustain that sort of consistency when you're at that sort of level.
I think the big issue is that right now, I don't think we have enough creativity within the CSGO content space that, I mean, if you try to compare it with other esports, I think League always jumps to mind. There's so many different League streamers and League videos and podcasts, and they all perform so well because they have a niche audience that loves that type of stuff. But for CS, it's like you have that same conversation of like, who is a big CSGO streamer? You don't really have too extensive of a list.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big issue because that from the streaming extends the YouTube clips and then the kind of things that you can build off of that. And we don't have anybody really like that. And I think that's a big issue. And beyond that, you don't have even kind of these unique ideas. I mean, Mahone just put out a video now with the mid smoke on Mirage.
Yeah.
That is a super unique idea, but that's like a once in a month type thing that we're seeing. That's not like a once a week type thing, where in other esports it's a regular thing. And and as a content creator, I'm sure all of you guys in this call would understand, is it's hard to just come up with an original idea off the rip and just have and put together the storyboard for it and do the research and then record it and then edit it and then put it out. Sure, you can hire some people for that, but at the end of the day, it's gonna still come down to those players, and they don't have time for that shit. It's just not possible. Like at the end of the day, they need to win. That's their priority.
Yeah.
And I feel like the branding and everything else comes behind that. And I think Maui actually put a reply to that where he's like, hot take, I think that pro players should not care about their brand whatsoever and should just play as much as possible and become the best that they could be. Because at that point, if you're just that good, people are gonna watch whatever the hell you put out anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah,
As you can see with like Nico put out a vlog, right? And it's like the most like cookie cutter vlog ever. Like I don't even think he's really put any effort into it. I think he's asked some guy to follow him around with the camera, and he's just like, he just says mundane things into the camera. But dude, this thing does views. Like it puts in major numbers because it's Nico. Like who the hell wouldn't want to see how he won Katowice? Even if you're not really getting any info, it's still cool, right? If you're a CS fan. So I guess in essence, I really do agree with kind of how Maui portrays it. It's just be the best player that you can be and let the accolades follow behind you rather than trying to put on a persona in front. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, well, I got the tweet here. I found it. I had to go on LinkedIn to find it because I remember I saw him put it on LinkedIn the other day. I know. That's how boomer I'm getting these days. But so hot take: if you're a pro player, you should be making content, building your brand and image, interviews, streaming, anything else of the game possible to be relevant. Esports isn't a place where you can sit back as an athlete and rely on your in-game performance yet. So, obviously, you know, for the most part, I think what is come of this is that he is seeing this from a very broad perspective of this is a guy who his whole life revolves obviously around content creation, and a lot of the games that he follows in terms of tweets about and reports on, in massive quotation marks, is content heavy games. A lot of Valorant, where that is a huge part of Valorant, because there's just not a high enough skill ceiling there in a way, and they don't have nearly enough or like nearly as much gigs and international lands and events that we have. I mean, they have the VCT lock-in, which is in Brazil, and then they have like a month and a half, 2 months break between the next gig. So obviously those people can start to do content in between, but CS people can't. So I think he said that in a very generic way, but it's not game specific at all. And I think certain games are very good at it. So I think Valorant is meant to be. It's the whole point of the way Valorant was made. It was made for content. It was made to be streamed. It was made to be kind of, you know, public friendly. There's no blood. There's no terrorists. It's meant to be very brand heavy, very stream heavy. CS is not like that. CS is purely, I mean, like the bulk of CS in a way of what we see is the pro level play. And with them, as we saw, kind of Messio's tweet, I think I can even probably grab it here. How much they were traveling, it was, you know, stupid.
So,
that's
the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Because you have that sort of happy medium. If you're a player that has already sort of made it in quotation marks, like if you're on a big organization, even if you haven't won anything yet, if you're on a big organization, you know, getting a decent paycheck, you should be putting all your effort into showing you're worthy of that paycheck and worthy of that slot on the team. Then the content can come second, because you'll become a bigger name once you're on that team. But players who aren't necessarily on a big team yet, who might have some more spare time because they aren't playing as many officials or traveling as much, then you can put some effort into the content and maybe look at it that way instead. And as Paladin was saying, streaming CS these days is really only possible for a very select few people and select few pros who people really want to watch. I remember back in the day, in the really old days, when I used to watch Summit, for example, people wouldn't stream CS when big tournaments were on because he knew it just wasn't viable. Everyone would be watching the tournaments instead. So there you go.
It's even that. I mean, if you look at who's like kind of the big streamers, Owner Pixel is probably the only one that really comes to mind as someone who keeps his viewership. Because obviously some others have kind of these streaky moments, but for the most part, Owner Pixel is the really only big one that I can think of. And I think Anomaly streams as well, but I don't really see it all too often. I think he also does quite a bit. Some of the skins guys, basically, they have their skins community, but it's not exactly the game, it's the skins specifically, and the kind of, I guess, the money around it as well. But
I think Owner's the most interested in the game, isn't he, as well? Like,
exactly.
While he is a skin guy, he's always, you know, doing watch parties for big tournaments and always like talking about the big updates.
And he keeps his viewership as well when he's not doing the watch parties, which I think that was the big test for me. I thought, like, I remember seeing only years ago when he would just do skins, and I at that time I was quite interested in skins, and this is a good couple of years ago, and he used to have like 150 people watching. And then obviously now he's blown up, but I think a large part of it is he's now regarded as the watch party guy. Like a lot of people, like even a lot of my friends now, when I mention on Owner Pixel, I still think of him as a skins guy, but I have friends of mine who are like, oh yeah, the watch party guy. So like that's where like he's going. And I think obviously he's cashing on it too right. He's doing really well. He's a monopoly. No one else is challenging him for it. Well, for the most part, there's a couple swinging about, but they're not putting on nearly enough viewership. But yeah, I think it's not very viable. I think it's a very, I don't know what the word is, but it's a very close-minded view, I guess, of esports. Like all esports is the same. I think it's very viable. Apex is another massive one. All the biggest Apex pro players, like Imperial Howl, all the TSM guys, like they stream daily, and they are like big streamers, huge personalities, because they play 4 tournaments a year. Of course they can do that.
Everyone's always very interested in watching, the top rank Apex players do the most they can do in those specific, like the Apex Predator player, that rank has got a lot of viewership, even for the lesser known pros, because it's just very interesting to see the high level gameplay.
Exactly. So, but it's just different with CS. I mean, even like when so like before I was a commentator, I used to stream somewhat regularly. And I always used to realize that even though CS is my favorite game, there was just no point streaming it. Like, 'cause no one's like, why would they watch me when there's just pro CS on? Like, there's no point. It became a big thing where like I remember the reason I stopped streaming years ago was because I used to pull in very good viewership playing other games like FIFA or Minecraft or anything else, right? Because people would watch it, I guess for me in that sense. But you go on CS and instantly people are like, well, why would I watch this guy play CS who's like a global elite but a pretty bad one at that? When I can just go and watch any pro that's live, because you know FPL guys are streaming. Even when I was playing, this was back when Rank S was popping, so all the NA guys were absolutely killing it. Tarek, Stewie, Shroud, and whatnot.
That was a classic.
But we've also
That was a
seen as
brilliant
well.
era.
There's no way you can juggle being a pro player and a full-time content creator as well. And Shroud is the perfect encapsulation of that because he came back to Pro Valorant and was hot garbage. So you can't do both. It's just not possible. There's 24 hours in a day. And you're essentially playing the game already like 15 hours a day with prac and demos and scrims and all that else that goes into warm up and whatnot. There's just no way you can make content as well full time. You can do odd things like Nico does, but I guess with Nico as well, I'd probably assume that G2 essentially just hired this guy. The guy's following around. I don't think it's out of his pocket in a way. 'Cause I don't think he gives a shit because he doesn't need to be. All Nico cares about and all he should care about, which is a good thing, is about being the best player in the world and trying to catch up to Zywoo and Simple and Shiro. And to be fair, he seems to do actually a pretty good job of it recently. He's been putting out some monster performances because he's focusing and he's got just someone else doing it all for him. The only one who I really see who regularly does content in that sense is Manesi. But he just whacks open a stream and he just finds another bug of some sort because he just lives in the game.
And then I cover it.
Exactly. And then Nart's in there like, yes, please. Yeah. But no, I don't know. I don't think it's possible. I mean, Nart, you'll know as well in a way. Like, there's no way. There's just not enough time. If you think about how many demos you watch to get your bits of content, and then they've got to play and prac and scrim and warm up, which a lot of pros, they take like an hour and a half to warm up, all on top of that. There's just no way, surely.
Yeah, there's definitely no way. There's not enough time in a day to do all that. But I would recommend for pro players to, if they want to get into content or make pieces, just stream, and then from there, you know, have their editor just take that, put it on YouTube, cut into clips. That's probably the easiest way.
That's how Tarek became like the content king. Rank S, he would just stream Rank S because he was such a good thing. I think the only time it doesn't work is if you're like a dick. Like if Deco was to try and clip up his streams, like
he's got a big Russian audience.
Yeah, but but the thing is though, like I think a lot of people watch him to till. Like, I've actually watched Deco's streams. I don't know what he's saying, just because it's funny. Sometimes I see him full till. And
his chat's like spamming like
a bunch
of random things. It's just
they're pretty loyal. But yeah, I think the only thing you can do is clip it up. That's how Tarek became big. Stewie used to do it as well back in Rank S, way back when. But there's just no way they can make like new content in a way, like new videos, like the videos like that Mahone did earlier with like the generations of window smoke, or like 3 clicks Phillips-esque videos where it's like, you know, well thought out, scripted. They've had to like, you know, do a lot of research to get to this. It's just no chance. There's no way. Even if a pro was to explain stuff as well, like I guess kind of what you do, not in a way, but not in terms of the YouTube side, but more like we did this because of this. Like I saw Carrigan do a couple of them. But the only times he's done them is because he's getting sponsored by like Play.gg or someone else. They're basically paying him to do it. I feel like there's no way he knows. Like when you play the game as much as you do, sometimes you also just need a break from it as well.
I think we found that kind of happy medium as of right now. I mean, I really like what EPL's done with giving personality to the players. It's an issue that we've had for quite some time where so many of these players, you just have no idea how they act. And especially like these CIS players who all of them kind of like wash into one type of person, but they're all very different characters. And I think you could see with kind of just the Spirit players and fours especially. Yeah, you're right. Like it's just been really exciting to see them develop. And I think on the YouTube side of things, we've gotten really good with comms videos. Like it sounds like a super small thing and everybody's doing it, but it actually gives a lot. Like, I mean, as an analyst trying to dive into the philosophy of a team, you can only go so far with watching the demos. I think watching comms and trying to gather the kind of team philosophy through that is super interesting. I think James has been up. James, I think if you guys like to read subtitles and watch High Pro CS, definitely go out and check out his channel.
Yeah,
his stuff is fantastic, and I think it's a gold mine for Western audiences as well. Because I mean, first of all, it's a completely different way of seeing the game if you listen to the comms. And just the kind of positions and the way they discuss the game just minute to minute. And then also on the same time, he's done a couple of like just discussion videos. He had like this sit down with Yekindar where they were just walking down. Like they went to Katowice together, right? Because they were both playing, and they just met up and they were just talking into a camera and walking around Katowice for like 50 minutes. And you get to really listen to kind of how they approach the game. It's all very small things. It's not like you're getting these big secrets being revealed or anything. It's all these really small things that just, if you were a fan of the game, you just would like to see their opinions and their ideas from it. And that's all you can really get if you're a fan, right? Like, in my opinion, I think that's the very top of like CS content. It's like just getting the small little nuggets here and there and kind of building on how you perceive a certain player or a team or whatnot. So I think that I'm really happy with where we're at right now, personally.
I implore people to watch James' Rio vlogs as well from the major. Oh my god, they were brilliant. Like when he was going up to like the Christ the Redeemer and stuff, and just being like, "Oh, it's me." Like, so it's just like that kind of stuff. Like, he's actually a very funny guy. Like, I always just thought James was so boring. I like his playstyle. I essentially thought he had the personality of his playstyle. Like, so boring. Like, just the most like milquetoast dude ever. But he is brilliant. And like you were saying, like I know there's a bit. It was like 2 or 3 days before the quarters, and it was him and Dastan on a balcony, and Dastan predicts who's gonna win like their games, or they would play against them, and then what the veto's gonna be as well. And I'm like, this kind of shit is just insane. Like, and when you get stuff like that, like I think it's very good. However, a lot of James stuff is also very easy to do, where it's not, again, like we said, like original content. He's just walking around with a camera. Like, I think vlogging is, for the most part, pretty easy, as much as vlogging YouTubers would like to claim it's not. As someone who has done a vlog at an event before, it's fucking easy. It's the easiest bit of content ever. You just do what you're going to do anyway and hold a camera there. You got one or two ways. You do very easy content like clip streams or vlog, or you hire someone else to do it like Nico's doing. I don't think what Jake Lucky's insinuating, where it's like they have to do it all. Like, essentially, like you have to not only be Nico, but then you have to be Nico and then do NartOutHere-esque videos, kind of thing, right? Like, it's just that kind of thing is just not possible. Like, if Nico is going to give us like a top 50 list of tips and tricks and stuff, how would he find the time? Is like, I think what Jake Lucky doesn't understand with a CS Pros schedule, but it's not a CS based tweet as well. I think it's a general esports tweet, and most of the esports aren't as compact in the schedule as we are, where like they have massive breaks in between tournaments. I mean, Apex, we went and watched one Trav a month ago, and the next one's not for like at least another couple of months, right?
Yeah.
They have huge things between their big events, where we have Kato onto Pro League finishes a couple of days later. You got the RMR finishes. You got a bit of a break. You got Blast Spring here, there, and everywhere. Then you got the major coming after that. The actual Blast Spring itself. Following that, you got IM Dallas. Like, there's just no breaks for them to ever really do proper content the way other pros can do, essentially. So I like the idea, but I just don't think it's possible.
So what
So we probably wrap it back. We should probably still continue with the groups, unless you guys.
Oh yeah, sorry to off track that.
No, I mean, it's a very good topic that I don't think it's going to be discussed too often.
Tell you what you can do. Tell you what we can do. I'm gonna merge my my highlight actually, into the next bit of a Pro League group that I want to talk about very quickly. Maybe go back to
Group C,
Lowlight and the Group C and Group D. I can quickly merge this, and I can get you to play off my thoughts. Firstly, Group C, NIP, absolutely unforgivable performance, losing against Greyhound and 00 Nation. I really did not see that coming for 00 Nation. Actually, more than Greyhound with their stand-in situation. NIP, honestly, I'm going to get onto them a little bit more later, but just for now, I think it's to say that they have no identity whatsoever, and it's incredibly worrying for them. And I'll quickly bounce and say Group D. Fours is my massive highlight of recent times. Jerry is an absolute goat. Seeing him on the couch, absolutely loved him. When I've ever had a chance to interview him, he'd be exactly the same. He would give you, 5-minute answers to a 5-second question. He's an absolute G, and his knowledge and how he puts it forward is so refreshing as a non-native English speaker as well. Like, it's so fantastic to hear. Of course, the last time he made Pro League, when he actually qualified properly rather than getting included as a replacement team, he had 4 completely different players, and he's qualified with a completely new core of 4, and he's made playoffs and made it look very convincing as well. Very impressive.
I gotta agree. I gotta agree. I think it's good to see Fours do well. Also, I think there was a lot of questions about Fours. I did a tweet about this just saying because we were kind of mentioning this, Trav, that in conference we were talking about it quite a lot when we worked together, because at the end of ESL season 43, so at the end of 2022, they were trialing Risalt and Forrester, and for most of us, Forrester is just a surefire. I'd never heard of this Risalt guy prior to him coming in, standing in for Fours, and I think his like HLTV experience was so limited in terms of, I think he played like
VP Prodigy stuff.
Yeah, that was it, exactly. So it's super limited, and VP Prodigy weren't actually all that great in terms of like academy leagues and whatnot. And then Forrester, who was in my eyes the best player on that old Entropic roster. I know everyone like really centered towards Elian, but for me, Forrester was always the go-to, and then I thought Nickelback was also just a bit of a genius as well. So when they went for Resol, I didn't like the decision at first. I thought it was a little bit stupid, but obviously we were kind of saying this at the start of 2023 when we were doing conference, saying if Jerry's seen something, we just got to trust him because Jerry's so smart. Like if he's seen something, there's got to be something good here.
And
it worked.
Just to interject as well, that's actually why Jerry hasn't moved away from Fours. That we saw a couple of interviews from him and a couple of comments from him. I think there was one on Reddit that someone plucked from somewhere where he says, because he's on Fours, he gets to pick his own players, and he gets to basically mold whatever he wants. As I said, with a whole new roster, getting it into Pro League through conference, and that's what probably is so attractive to him. It's a cool gig to have. Like, you have your own chance to choose whoever you want. You can just relax, do the hard work in your own space. You don't have to worry about pressure from outside sources. Fours trust him. He trusts the management. He's been on that team since he was 19, and he's now 24, 25. That is unheard of at this level of CS for such longevity of one player on one organization, and it shows.
Got the most secure job in esports, basically. Like nobody has a job as secure as Jerry. Like, he is loving life, but at the same time, the results pay off, as we've obviously seen. Like, these guys are doing real. And then now as well, I think a lot of people kind of thought them as maybe like a last chance qualifier-esque team for the RMR, and I think a lot of people will be looking at them a lot higher with, everyone looking a little bit shaky here and there. OG still not exactly a lock-in. NIP obviously all over the place. Big still super uncertain. It really actually makes this Force team look really, really hot. Even Spirit as well. I don't think they're looking massively like dominant at times. Like, they've got great performances here and there, but it's not always the most consistent thing. And I think that was always the problem with Force for me. They were lacking consistency. I remember at the end of season 43, they should have beat Saw, and they just completely fucked it, and they got battered 2-0. Saw went on to win ESL season 43. And
for example, I picked one of my RMR predictions I did with Unia that will be released at some point. I didn't pick Forza to make it through, and I picked Big to go LCQ. But obviously, that was before the Pro League Group D. So so now, if I was to do it again, I would say absolutely I would pick them to go at least LCQ. But it's crazy how things change so quickly on a whim when it comes to these sort of performances. But as we saw with Complexity from Cato to Pro League, it can just disappear. Some teams don't have it, some teams do. It's very strange. The scene is kind of like that, and I believe that's actually what a point we'll come to later on as well.
Yeah, and I guess
how replicable do you think these results are, Nart, from watching some of these demos? Because I mean, we've seen just clear bracket sweeps from teams like Movistar, and we haven't seen it kind of replicated ever since. So how replicable do you think that this form is? Do you think they're going to do any damage in the playoffs?
So I don't watch like tier 2 and tier 3 as much.
No, like just from EPL, like
EPL. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that question?
Like how replicable do you think that Forza's form will be? Because they just swept through the D bracket, and it looks really impressive on paper. But then you can call into the question of the kind of the caliber of teams that they beat, and do you think that they could actually do damage in the playoffs in the RMR, or do you think that this is kind of like a one-off thing based off of the demos that you've watched?
Watching Force has been really impressive due to the fact that Zorte, the Opper, has massively stepped up. Like, I did not know he was this good. Like, he was pulling off like some crazy stats and insane clutches. And then Force, I think their crazy stat line in 2022 was like they had like the most matches played.
Probably. It sounds all right.
I think I saw that somewhere. So like they're putting in a lot of work online. So hopefully it comes to fruition here in the playoffs. But these other Group D was wild, like upsets like right off the bat. with Rare Atom 2-0ing Liquid. Like who expected that?
No one, but it was
Me.
good to. Well, yes, yeah.
Wait. What?
Well, I didn't predict it, but I actually said to I think I actually said it to Paladin that when I saw Raratum playing Liquid, it actually reeked of a game where Liquid wouldn't be used to the Raratum play style, and used to because they just don't ever play that region ever. And obviously Raratum had a few successes, and the veto and map pool
ridiculously good for them.
Ridiculously good for Raratum because of the Inferno that they always love, and that's always been a bit shaky for Liquid. So up and down on that map in particular. But yeah,
Also Kaze,
I didn't think they'd win, but I thought they'd put up a good performance, and in the end they just absolutely swept them.
What a game by Kaze as well. My God, that guy, he's rolling back the years. The old Vici days. He was, my God, he was on fire.
And in all honesty, it just makes me super excited for the Asia RMR because every bit of Oceania talent that we've seen from Greyhound, even Rooster showing good performances, now Rare Atom, like it's going to be competitive. It's still going to be 8 teams, but I think now every single team has something to give, and it's going to get really, really competitive for those 2 spots.
Do you think there's ever a world in the future where they give the same amount of slots to Asia that they do NA?
Well, they have to earn it, right?
I don't think that will ever happen.
Don't think ever. Even if what happens if
unless
Atom,
like all these
IHC,
teams start performing like crazy.
Linvision are still in the bylines. Starry's absolutely a farmer.
But
then you've got
spot if they make Legend Stage. So that's how much you want to believe in an Asian team that they would make the Legend Stage.
Ooh,
which
actually, that's
I don't think that's possible. Personally,
I think honestly, if IHC kept score, I generally think they could have scraped on in the Rio major, which was like all over the place, right? In those kind of scrappy majors, I think an IHC and now IHC not obviously not then, but if IHC were now the one that we saw at Kato, if they had gone towards the major, I think they could have scraped one potentially. But I'm not saying it's by any means locked in or secured. It would take a lot of luck and a lot of the stars to align.
Yeah.
But what? So is that how it works? They have to make Legend Stage to get another spot.
I'm pretty sure because if I recall, that's what happened with Imperial when they qualified last minute to the Legend Stage of the last or for Stockholm, I think.
Okay, so they got one more spot for Americans.
Yeah.
And then you got one less lot this time because of not enough teams made it.
Yeah. No,
okay.
I think other than Furia, we didn't have any other team. Oh, actually, sorry, I take that back. But
because you only have one Legend spot now, right? And was it 2 before?
Yeah, we only have one Legend spot right now, and we had one before as well, but now we lose the Challenger spot.
Oh, and it was 6 challenges before, now it's 5, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess that's the good thing with EU. It basically never happened. So I mean, I'm assuming the only thing is because there's now it's like Group A has 4 Legend spots and Group B has 3, right? Isn't that how it works?
Something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like that,
yeah. Why is it like that? Like, why is it not? Obviously, I know it can't be split, but
I think it's like the same way it works with the challengers to legends.
Right.
Like Legends Champions is probably the big thing because again, Furia was the only NA team to make it to America's team to make it to the Champions Stage, so we would still only have one. But I'm assuming EU we had majority from that region.
Yeah.
And then I'm not really sure how they split it across A and B, but I think that's just just up for a seeding for which teams are in each one.
Mm-hmm. I guess following that we can kind of go on to predictions of playoffs. I think this one, I think we obviously we've all had a fair decent share at predicting groups and never really pans out. But I guess probably the way to do it is run through each game and just quickly rattle off anything. So Na'Vi Double Nation, I think we've kind of all leaning. I know.
There's not much to talk about here.
Yeah, I know Nipple is fucking dog shit, but
I'm
yeah.
At the very least,
he played really good last game against Spirit.
Yeah, but he also dropped 6.
But then
he also dropped 6 kills in 38 rounds or something like that. So on Inferno. So I don't think he's tier 1 ready. I'm
for sure. But so the issue with Na'Vi and how they're using him is they're just sending him out first. They're like, go die for us.
Yeah. It's like Sanji, right? Isn't it? It reminds me of Sanji back on VP when they just he would pick up a Deagle and drop Jamin Orb and then he'd go and die for info.
And like the bad thing about like some of the demos I watch is like the timings are off where they're actually like baiting him. Like he'll be like miles ahead and no one else is coming out with him. I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah,
Poor guy.
there's not a team that has like the pedigree of Navi that can look like such a mess sometimes.
Yeah.
And like there was a couple of occasions. I mean, it's not just the NPL factor. There was a one round on Inferno at one of their Inferno matches that I remember where just inexplicably Bit just wide swung short on Inferno.
I
like,
remember
under
that.
porch.
Yeah.
Like he was on site behind the default box and just like without a flash, just swung into the open with like this much of a gap between the box and this much of a gap between pit. Just like couldn't be more in the open if he tried. And obviously he managed to trade, but you know, like it just random moments like that, which just communication has never seemed right for them. And I think even simple, of course, you all know how open he is in terms of how the roster is and how their people are playing. I think he mentioned it a few times about how just so often there's miscommunications in various hectic moments that completely make them look like they're playing without their heads on. You know, it's kind of crazy. But do look I will say they look slightly better than I thought they would actually in their group.
I expected way worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll beat Outsiders, but Heroic is another matter.
I actually don't even think they'll be outsiders.
Yeah,
They beat
I-
the
Oh,
I-
are we talking about this whole side? This
I
whole
mean, we're
top
kind
group?
of jumping around at this
Oh,
point,
okay,
right?
okay.
We're just going down playoffs round 1 first, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they beat Outsiders in Kato, right? Am I right in saying that? I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
current
so,
outsiders beat current RV.
Okay,
I
yeah,
actually think it'll be a 2-0 as well. I think James is like he's like a sadist. Like he'll punish that MPL guy. Like he just will not let him rest. Like wherever he's on the map. Like I remember him doing that in like against like some tier 2 team. And I can't remember. Someone's on a bad day, and he absolutely obliterated this poor fella. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but I remember watching it, being like, "This guy's he's a sicko. Like he's absolutely this guy's on a bad day." I think he'll just do that to NPL. Like I have more faith in an Outsiders 2-0 than any win of Navi. Is how I currently.
I'll actually take Navi in that game this time.
Okay.
I genuinely will. Yeah.
Got no faith in Double R Nation then making it through.
No.
Not at all.
No.
I think honestly, them making it through is just a shock.
It's a
That
miracle.
ancient game was just deplorable from NIP. Like, I think it was so insane. They like interview Cold Zera after the game, and I think they talked to him because he called that game basically, and they were like, yeah, their A-hold was shit, so I just exec'd on A for 6 rounds in a row, and they just kept losing donut every round. We kept getting the bomb down, and we kept winning. I'm like, that.
It's crazy.
And everyone's like, wow, Cold Zera, that's so cool, man. And I'm like, how does this work? How do you not have any kind of plan A or plan B or C to deal with this? You still play config and donut, and you still just roll over and you give up the site. I think it's just ridiculous. So I don't even think they should be in this position to begin with. And they will get blown out.
I agree with you. That's the 0-0 Nation game that they played. Let me just double check. I need to find out exactly who they played so I can double. I think it might have been Greyhound. The 0-0 Nation versus Greyhound game, and they played on Mirage.
Ooh.
That might have been the worst quality victory I think I've ever seen in Mirage.
What happened? I didn't watch that game. What happened?
You don't miss so much.
Really
good. Never
So-
watch it. Never go anywhere near it.
Save your mental
missed
state.
utility,
Okay.
missed sprays, missed executes. It was just the ugliest thing that, like, especially for you, Nart. I don't think you would ever want to touch that game with a 10-foot pole.
The amount of like gaps and smokes that were like so visible
on Mirage, man, like
which-
missed CT smokes, missed window smokes. Like, what
I
are we
have
doing?
mates who are gold 2 who know CT and trade like stairs smokes.
That's bad.
Or like I saw
Holy
one
fuck.
where it was like you know the classic when someone throws like an insta window smoke, but it just bounces in the middle of mid, like hits like the ledge.
There's a big gap in the
So
jungle
many
ones
of
as
those.
well.
There was like so many one ways given over to the other team as well because of how bad their own. Oh my god, you'd hate it. Like you'd have an aneurysm watching that. Like that would be like. The only thing I can see you getting out of that is like how not to use Yuto in a pro match, not out here special, and just highlight what goes wrong. Because jeez, I remember I was watching that with some of my friends. We were just like kind of waiting before we play ourselves, and we were just baffled. Like we're bad at CS, and we don't even make those mistakes. But they kind of played down to each other's level. I think is probably what happened. But I think Double Nation at times play up to people. Not that I'm saying they're by any means good. Do we actually know why Tacos like dropped out?
No, that's actually what I was literally about to say. Like the only thing we know about Taco is he put out a tweet longer saying he wouldn't be playing the RMR and he's just going to focus on himself. And we don't know anything other than
Sounds
that. I know
kinda serious.
Paladin has a has a wish to see a Furia Taco one day, and he's quite
Really?
he's quite passionate about that one.
Well, I
Which
mean,
actually leads us on
Honestly, for
to
right
the next
now,
game.
I think Furia, sorry, Taco or PKL. I think either one work.
Okay.
oh yeah.
It's
Why did
because
why did PKL get dropped as well? Like that kind of seemed out of nowhere as well in a
it
way.
seemed as though that he wanted to take the step back, judging
Ah, okay.
from kind of what I'm reading. But and I think he's a super hot commodity, at least in the space right now. You see, Zero Star Nation also want an IGL. Basically, they're short of that right now,
Yeah.
unless Cold wants to continue. I think he's continuing for the major cycle, but I think in Brazil he'll be a super hot commodity. I think this is kind of like that move that Alexi B made when he just stepped back and he was like, you know, I'm just gonna, or sorry, Hooksy just took a step back and he didn't make any decisions, and eventually G2 took
Came
a chance on
knocking.
both of those
Yeah.
players at some point, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the cards that he has to play right now, which I think is fine. But let's go ahead and talk about Furia Fnatic, and I've got Fnatic for this one, because
I do too.
similarly as to why I'm talking about PKL and Taco is I don't believe in art anymore.
I
I've
don't think
kind
anybody
of
does.
I
Well,
see
Yanko
that people.
does.
Well, you
Anything
can
but,
see
right?
him getting like, I think when you know the reaction he had, like, oh, it was like Yanko's an idiot or something, or whatever he said, something like that. Like didn't he say something like you replied
Yeah,
to him?
Yeah.
he said these analysts don't know what they're talking about. They're so dumb.
Yeah,
Basically.
exactly. And like when he's nibbling like that, bear in mind it's an analyst's job to literally do that. Like you can't be nibbling. I think he's now getting insecure because he knows as well that like I think you would have made comments like that if you know the problem. Like even when Hooksy, when everyone was gunning for Hooksy early on towards G2, even he was pretty cool, calm, and collected, being like, "We're working on it. We're gonna make it work." Because he knows, like I think he obviously knew it was just gonna take his time. But I think Art realizes there's a bit of a fraud warning above his head, and he's like, "Oh shit! Like I'm up. Like let me go out with fire."
The issue that I have with this style right now is that it's outdated, right? Like it worked at once upon a time when you think about when they broke out of the scene in ECS,
COVID,
and
yeah.
they kind of upset Astralis, Prime Astralis on Nuke, no less. Like that those kind of upsets were unheard of, and the kind of style that he was bringing out, you have Art just gun to the other team's spawn somehow in like a minute 30, and you just be dumbfounded as to how he get there. That kind of idea has been stifled now, and you don't necessarily see those rounds from him anymore. You don't see any impact from it. And what happened before is he would have very similar statistics. He would have very similar kind of score lines, but the big difference was is he would win rounds for you outright by the way he played, and that kind of style has been figured out. And now you're leaving players like Queserado, Safe, Yuri. They have to pick up the pieces, and it's not pretty by any means. It just feels like a bunch of
show. That's all it is
yeah,
now.
He's
and
so fucking good.
The
isn't
husk
he?
has
it
been
just
removed.
He's so
which
good.
is just a band-aid of a situation, right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like this is a long-term scenario at any point. You don't even know how long Queserado's prime is going to last. Why not just pick up an IGL that is proven at this point? You have options, as I said before, and you kind of try to run with it. And I think these players know how to play. Sorry, these IGLs know how to play with these types of players. I think it's very doable. So I think just cut the kind of the infected leg of the human off right now, and just move forward with a better option.
Someone to enable the pieces of Yuri and Queserato, because Safe actually hasn't actually looked too bad either. Like he was actually not.
He's looked good this EPL.
It's actually looked okay. So like if you can just enable that trio, Drop is still capable, in my opinion, of doing an absolutely fine job. I think honestly, as you say, the prime of Queserato, he's never had another team. I mean, I think the same goes for Yuri, if I'm not mistaken. They've both been on Furia since the very beginning. So the stat still reads that they have never won, you know, a big tournament. And then we thought that ESL Challenger Valencia, even that's not necessarily a huge tournament, but that was their main shot. Won it. And guess what? They didn't win it, and they haven't won anything since. So, you know, they've got nothing to show for these incredible talents they have, which is just wrong.
I did see I can't remember who it was. I will give them credit, but I actually can't remember who it was. But someone was saying about they would like to see Cello, because Cello IGL for MIBR, and then
but it was not good.
But their thing was that Cello is really good, and it's not exactly like their IGL's any good now. At least they have like a competent rifler who has called before, under the tutorage of Fallen now for the last half a year, 8-9 months, whatever it is. you know, he can play tier 1 CS. Like, I mean, I think we can all pretty much agree as a rifler, he's capable. Like, I'll comfortably can play tier 1 CS. It's just the fact that obviously Imperial kind of do at times. But they were like, you know, he has called before. Potentially, if they can't get a taco because he's got personal issues, whatever that is, God knows what PKL's doing. But if they don't look at PKL, maybe if they can, you know, sway him away from. I don't know how deep Imperial's pockets are. I actually kind of feel like Imperial's pockets are maybe deeper than Furious, to be perfectly honest. But
the buyouts in Brazil is just ridiculous. That's the main issue.
They're huge, yeah.
They'll just put ridiculous amounts because they don't want to let go of their players. So I think that's the main issue. But something is going to give, and eventually these players are going to get tired of the results because, as I said before, these primes only last for so long, and you don't know when they'll run out. And you don't want to waste a player like Queserado's career out like this with just trophyless, mind you. Like, that's just unheard of.
Yeah.
So in agreement, Fnatic.
I it's just too hard for me to call. I know they were talking about on the EPL desk when they did the draws. This is going to be the closest game out of all the playoff round 1.
I agree.
I still think it's 50-50. Fnatic is still very shaky to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Furia are too, but
right? This is a whole new game. They've never played before, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Well,
they've never played.
Furia never played. Yeah. I know as well.
The reason why I'm edging Fnatic is I think that the map pool, I lean pretty heavily to Fnatic. Even though they won't get to play Overpass in this series, which is probably their best map, they still have Nuke in their back pocket, and I think Furia's got some fool's gold with their statistics there. Vertigo, I think they're very competent. Fnatic, even though Furia is, again, I think they lean to that if they want to. And then you've got, like, the Anubis Inferno Mirage trio, and I think that even though the statistics don't suggest it, I just feel like foundationally, I can rely on Fnatic to produce a specific result for me in comparison to Furia. And I know it's really a game of who is less shaky. I think you're completely right, Nart. Fnatic is still a very shaky core. But at the end of the day, I just feel like if I had to put all the chips on the table, I would much rather favor a Crims, Roy, and Mezzi performance than just a Queserado performance. I don't think there's enough support for him to kind of tow them over the line, which is my big issue, is who is going to be there to step up beside Queserado foundationally, and I don't think that they have it.
Fnatic have a competent IGL, and he's English. Easy. Fnatic will win it. Never in doubt. Never in doubt. Pain Liquid.
GT Mobi, G2. Yeah. Move on.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm fair enough.
I'm throwing a Pain out there just to
Okay.
Look, I think Liquid is
fanboy.
Liquid has found.
My goat Sevian Skulls.
I have to give credit to Pain to perform with Nekiz the way that they did, but I think that this is like Liquid's comfort zone where they start slow and they get as much practice as possible. As we've heard that Yekindar said that they've not had good preparation.
Yeah,
this
is the best ping or whatever.
Yeah, this is the best type of preparation that they have, where their backs are against the wall. And now that they're put in this scenario, they've battled through the last chance stage. They've manhandled Astralis. And I think now at this point, they're just going to smash through Pain. And I think that they should be pretty comfortable favorites, in my opinion, against Mount.
They should play their own game, meaning like when they first played Rare Atom, Kinder said in the interview yesterday, like, they respected them too much.
Right.
So the second time they played, they were just like holding W, like doing all these aggro plays. Like that's what they need to do against Pain here.
Yeah. And G2 Mobi, we all agree in there is G2.
So do you want to give me? Let's shoot the shit here, right? Let's give us some quick one-word answers, and then maybe we can move on to what we think about the actual quarters.
Okay.
So Outsiders, Navi, go.
Outsiders, easy.
Outsiders.
Okay, let's go both for this one. FaZe, Fnatic.
FaZe.
FaZe.
Furia.
FaZe.
Mouse, Liquid.
Mouse.
Mouse.
Oh, he's betrayed his NA boys. Okay, ENCE G2.
G2.
Okay, so now we've got Heroic, Navi, or Outsiders. So probably Heroic Outsiders. We've got Fours, FaZe. That's a tongue twister.
It's a cool game.
It's a cool game though. And you got Cloud9, maybe Liquid Mouse. So let's do it quickly again. So Heroic Outsiders.
Heroic.
Sadly.
Forwards phase.
FaZe.
FaZe.
Shame. Cloud9, Mouse.
Cloud9.
Mouse.
Cloud9.
Cloud9, Liquid.
Liquid.
Cloud9.
Cloud9.
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
believe-
Cloud9. My bad.
I believe in
Yeah,
Cloud9 as well. I agree.
Yeah.
Vitality, G2.
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 Okay. So that probably leaves us with Heroic and G2, at least in the semis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So are you both still thinking it's a Heroic
Wait.
G2 final?
Heroic G2?
Yeah, because opposite of the bracket.
Or
Sides.
FaZe Heroic?
I think
Yeah.
FaZe is a lock for semi.
I'm talking about
personally.
opposite sides.
Oh,
yeah. So
opposite
right,
sides?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we're
okay,
thinking
okay.
Heroic's going to be at the top and G2's going to be at the bottom. Are we
Okay,
still
yeah.
thinking a Heroic G2 final? Are they still the only S-tier teams?
I honestly would.
FaZe
but
can be Heroic.
I was going to say, just out of maybe a little bit
I
of
agree.
personal bias, I was going to say I think FaZe go to the final. And if I was to make a prediction, I would say it'd be a FaZe G2 final.
I agree. It can be very matchup dependent at the upper end of the stick right now. And the reason why I was just suggesting that I think C9 would beat Liquid, but they lose to Mouse is their map pools are really weird and they don't really coincide with
true.
one another. And you just saw it Rio when C9 just completely fumbled against Mouse. And I think Liquid can. You've seen every time Liquid's played C9, they've actually been really comfortable against them. So I think it's very matchup dependent. And I think FaZe has got a very good psychological edge over Heroic. Personally, at least from what I've judged. And the only outlier in that scenario was the final in fall finals. And beyond that, I think a lot of outlying circumstances allowed them to go over the top. And it was in Copenhagen. You know, a lot of emotions were going towards Heroic at that point. And I don't think that kind of pressure is on FaZe this time around. I feel like being number 3, or actually number 7 as of right now, but I kind of tacked them as number 3 right now. I don't think there's as much pressure on them, and for that reason, I think they'll comfortably make the grand final.
Okay, so we saying G2 is a lock for the lower side of the bracket, and then it's between Heroic FaZe on the top side. That's like our kind of somewhat unanimous agreement there. Like regardless of Liquid or whatever happens elsewhere, we're still locking in that it's going to be either Heroic / FaZe versus G2. Is that kind of the agreement?
I think G2 will ramp up. I have no doubt. But if Cloud9 can have any sort of repeat of their performance from the group stage, then I still think that one could go either way. But I think
either team,
G2.
right?
Yeah,
I think either Liquid or C9 that makes it through there, we're gonna have a banging semi. I think if Mouse makes it, I don't really give them enough credit deeper in tournaments. I think they do their best work in the group stages. So I think that if you get any of those two of those 3, I think you'll have a very solid semi. I think we're in for a pretty sweet bracket, all things said.
It was some good Counter-Strike.
What I'm going to do is before we get onto our little Source 2 piece, we've got a good segue here.
Go on.
I'm going to move us on to the Richard Lewis article about competitive CSGO.
Wait, Trev. We forgot to talk about it. One team.
Go on.
Did we talk about Astralis?
Oh yeah, we actually can talk about Astralis.
Let's do
oh
that
my
first.
god! Wait, let me find the tweet from Major TV. I think you replied to it, Trav. You did a little quote retweet of it.
I did have a quote tweet.
But
so
it's a classic. I'll
for
grab
me,
it.
I don't understand how they got so many likes. By the way,
Absolutely fucking banged. Didn't they? They got like 1,000 likes. Oh, just
maybe
shy of 1,000.
Maybe people actually agree with me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought it? Anyway,
there it is.
My opinion: Astralis. Woof woof, dog, device good, Buzz has talent, Blame, too much baity bait, Zip, Glaive, get out of here.
Yeah.
Please do something about it, Astralis. That's my opinion. Have at it, guys.
But
let me start off with Zipix needs to go. His time is so they're currently using him as like he's anchoring, but he's not doing a good job. But on the T side, they're forcing him to entry, and he just doesn't have like I've seen his POV. He doesn't have that aim anymore.
He's not that guy.
Like, yeah. They need to pick up like somebody young, like a zoomer with like these crazy flicks and stuff. But he's just not that guy no more.
Like a Patsy-esque 19-year-old.
Yeah,
fresh,
exactly.
Ready to destroy people. Yeah.
You can find them, man. I'm sure the Danes have it somewhere locked in the tank. And I completely agree. I think Zipnix.
Go on. Oh, sorry. Yeah, continue.
No, I think Zipnix needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, not saying he's Astralis level or anything, but I did see this kid this weekend for the Nordics qualifier plays for a Proserpia, which if any of you follow football, he's that org is owned by Lord Nicholas Bentler, the Arsenal legend. But This kid played for them called like Syrah or something, 16, and was absolutely cracked out the wazoo. He was slapping about Copenhagen Flames. Like, the rest of his team were pretty meh, but he was like dropping like 27 kills against Copenhagen Flames, against Ecstatic, all of these guys like it was nothing. So that the Danish talent pool is so deep. There's probably so many kids who are like on that road. I'm not saying, I don't really think there's too many other towards like, I think Ecstatic and Masonic and Tricked, I think they're all pretty meh. I don't think there's anyone really there. But I think they could probably find someone somewhere in the Danish scene, maybe, or maybe even if they go a little bit further out. Like people like, not saying Regali, but there's a lot of like, they're not Danish by flag, but they're Danish speaking sort of thing, who they can maybe bring in.
So to me, I think the most risky statement that you've put out, Trav, is the conversation about Glaive, and we had a conversation about this before, and I've mulled about this for a while now, just trying to see, is there something salvageable from the tactics of Astralis that would make me believe that Glaive is still a good IGL, and if you give him good pieces that he could start winning again. But I've come to the conclusion that he's already got the pieces that he should be able to deal with. Like, Device and BlameF as a duo should be allowing you to at least qualify for playoffs of some of these tournaments. I think that BlameF is a fantastic talent. I know certain people have ideas that he's too baity, but I still think that he does his job very well. I think Device is still showing that he's very, very consistent. He can still go toe-to-toe with some of the best operators in the game. That's fantastic. And that alone should have me feeling confident about this Astralis line, especially if you have Glaive at the helm. But we can only talk about what he has done before and say that that's how he is right now. You know, like, he won those 4 majors, sure, but you can't just stop the counter of like the whole GOAT conversation at when he stopped winning the majors, right? True. It continues on. Your legacy continues until you hang up the mouse. And as of right now, Kerrigan is really, really hot on your ass, because at the end of the day, right, Grand Slam is on the horizon and FaZe is still contending for trophies regularly. Yeah. Right? And that alone and the kind of rosters that he's brought up in that conversation is much, much more meager in terms of the kind of talent that Glaive had to work with, in my opinion. I don't know.
So let me throw some names out there, and I want you guys to at least give your opinion, maybe something out of left field. Maze didn't get given a proper go on Sprouts, but he's very fresh. Bird from Sky, obvious, but he's old, unfortunately. Ralls, TMB,
no,
fresh.
Do not say Ralls' name ever again. Do not. He's not good.
Relax. I was putting that name with a never.
Okay, good.
Relax. BlameF. Would he IGL again? I'm putting that out there.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, he's done it before, right? So, I mean, why not?
Complexity.
Yeah. And then I guess it means it's one less position they have to care about. However, the only thing I don't like about that is, A, does he want to do it? And B, if he does do it, will it hinder him? Because I feel like if you hinder BlameF, I feel like this team's absolutely in the
I don't think it will, right? Because in Complexity, a lot of the strategy that he would call was around himself, and his numbers never tanked because of it. And I think that he could still do it if he wanted to. I actually didn't think about that. That's a really good point. I think it could actually work.
Yeah, but then who else they bring in? Like, then now they've got to find competent riflers, right? And I think even that, like, just because I think that the Danish scene at the moment is so like top heavy in a sense that you got Heroica, obviously one of the best teams in the world right now, second best in the world, and comfortably like really doing really well. And then there's like nothing for a long while if you're looking at a HTV list. There's Astralis, who are like tier 1.5, but even that's a bit of a loose term with just how shaky their performances are. Yeah. And then there is a huge gap. And then there's Copenhagen Flames, who are now just mid. Like, they've lost their star player, which we'll get to a little bit later, but they're just a mid team. And then you take another huge couple of steps. You've got Ecstatic and Masonic and Tricked. And like, there's no one there that really like is like, oh my god, like there's no one there who was like, I guess, lucky on Tricked. So you're like, shit, this guy's actually sick. Like, this guy actually could step up. And obviously he didn't exactly work out, but you could at least see that he was just standout for Tricked. He was standout for tier 2. It just doesn't seem to be anybody like, well, and the Maze one as well. I saw Sprout do this on Reddit. They were like, oh, someone was like, oh, like, why did Sprout, like, they only played him for 2 days or whatever in the IEM like Rio quals. And and they were like, and the Reddit guy replied like, it wasn't 2 days. It was just 2 days of official HLTVs. We had him for way longer. And he obviously wasn't good enough. So if he's not getting onto Sprout, who fucking hell, they needed anything at that point, and they still do. There's no way he's getting towards Astralis. So I think May's actually pretty talented, but I don't think he's ready to step up there.
No, it's fresh.
I think that's the thing. That's the problem that Astralis are in right now. With Buzz, who was actually probably one of the best hot talents around. Unfortunately, it hasn't exactly worked out, but I don't think it's all his fault. But he actually was one of the best prospects around. There's no one else. Like, in my eyes, nobody on Ecstatic is like, oh yeah, this guy's a level above. Nobody on. I mean, the only one I can think is Kragan. He's pretty good. He's a bit standout for Ecstatic.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, Kragan's the only one for me, but he's also. But I think he probably end up overlapping a lot of roles of Blame F. To be perfectly honest, he plays a lot of entry part, I think. So I don't think there's much Danish talent for him to even look into.
I don't know like the Danish scene and the young prospects, but I do have a name that might be a possible move. Maybe Esatag for Zipix.
I like Esatag. I think
I go back. That's the question.
Yeah.
After what happened to him, like all these players that Astralis have, cycled through and thrown out to the trash. Like, I mean, Lucky, bless him, got 16-0'd by some random Danish mix today. Like, literally.
Oh god.
Yeah, it was a team called Scepter, and it had Percy, SMF, Rixo, and Alexum fan on it. I've only heard of Percy and SMF.
I've heard of Alexum fan. That's it.
They picked Vertigo and lost it 16-0. So like, he's gone from that to that. So
is he with Tricked? Is that where he's at now?
Tricked.
Yeah.
Game. Yeah. So I actually think Esatag, if he's willing to trust Astralis again, replacing Zip with him would be the better call. I think he has better mechanics than Zip and would definitely be a slight buff. And I do think Buzz is still moldable.
I think he's only 19.
I think so.
Yeah. He was such a hot prospect as well prior to Astralis. I just think Astralis had a really good way of ruining players. As we've already seen. Like, and especially considering when you've seen Esatag play elsewhere, like when he stood in not too long ago at Kato, he was sick. He was doing everything that was needed of him. I think he is you'll probably know, he's a bit of a god of utility. He can do anything. He's just jack of all trades. Like, he's kind of the perfect utility man. But I don't know if he wants to give them a shot. Also, do you really want to jump onto a sinking ship? I don't know if he wants to. I don't think he's in any rush.
Astralis no one wants to go there anymore.
No.
Like, that's the simple fact of the matter. Like, teams that are hot prospect Danish players, they look at Heroic first, even despite the news that came through today that they need a cash injection.
900k.
Going.
I'm saving my money up, guys. You want to chip in? We're gonna buy Heroic.
Go fund me.
I need 900k in the next 8 months. Like, fucking hell.
But they'd still pick Heroic first, and then you'd look to more of an EU mix rather than Astralis, because of what their history's like. So yeah, it's scary for them, but for now that they locked Zip in his contract for way too long, which was obvious that was not gonna pan out.
2025, right?
Yeah, something like that. Like goodness sake, put him down.
Him and Glade.
Gotta get his agent, guys.
Yeah, Jesus, his agents work wonders. His agents
watching
just
demos of himself and looking, oh, look at this poor old man. Like, what's going on here?
His agents probably just watch Pro League and thinking, fucking, I've done it again. I've done it again. I've survived another one. How have I done this? I am the GOAT. Like, he's got posters of himself on the wall. Like, I am brilliant. Like, and Glave's also 2025 as well. They're both locked in 2025. Like, there's no way they make the end of the year. If things carry this way, this has been a year and a half now of just meh performances. There's no chance.
Shares in Astralis, Zip and Glaive?
Oh, good question. I don't know the ins and outs.
I cannot remember this.
They're legacy players,
like
so I think they do.
Yeah.
They're legacy players. So they must. It's the same thing at Endpoint do with the likes of Matty Max and Surreal.
Yeah.
Like, they're all legacy players. They have shares in the org. So I'm pretty sure they do. I think Zip's the kind of person who could become a coach, though. Like, he could coach like an Ecstatic.
As I said, I was actually thinking about Astralis coaches as well. Like, Bird from Sky as a coach one day would actually not be a bad idea.
Yeah. He's never escaping that radar from Sky. The second he becomes a coach as well.
Oh, my God. I think it's talking of radar. I think there's only one person that Astralis is moulding for that official coach role. That's minus Castle plus Hunden, and we all know it's coming. Unfortunately, it has to come at some point.
It's. I mean, especially his presence is like always there. You just like
they kept putting him on camera.
I know.
They kept flicking it to him.
But
Yeah.
I think
It was
ESL know it's like it's just free interactions. Like the second they do that, like
100%.
it's nothing
Yeah.
malicious, it's nothing bad.
Yeah.
But the second they do it, they know Twitch chat's gonna blow up, Twitter's gonna blow up, and that just brings up more eyes to it. They're actually like marketing geniuses. Like they just know
For
how to
sure.
like rile people up.
Anyone who knows me well will know that I've always had a bit of a hate boner for Astralis for what they did to VP back in E-League Atlanta. But
I remember.
if Hunden gets to the coach role of that team, they'll be more hated than ever before. That
Yeah.
is just a fact of the matter.
I can't remember who tweeted it, and I want to say it was Thorin. It was a very good tweet, essentially saying that what we've seen is the Astralis, all their fan base came from success, right? 4 majors, arguably
Yeah.
the best team ever. Like that's where their fan base came from. And the second the performances started to fall, obviously as they have since their last major, they've been desperately trying to cling on to any sort of glory, any sort of kind of success, and in the way that they're doing so is just throwing morale out the window. They'll do anything to keep success, and it's showing now that they've gone from being like not only like the best team of all time, one of the greatest organizations, won so much, like they'll do anything to get back to that high, including just completely destroying their reputation, destroying any sort of a good light that's shown on them by any underhanded tactics, bringing on anybody. It kind of shows. I think it's kind of pretty spot on. Like they realize that their fan base and all their popularity came from success, and they have no morals. There's no moral compass over there, like towards them.
It's so odd for them to even hire him when he cheated against them.
Yeah, he gave away their scrapbook.
It's just like what?
It's
Don't
like
even, man.
it's
the scene is just like that, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it'll happen. Anyway, are we happy that we're done with that for now?
I think we
Wait,
are.
did we even pick a winner for
The whole
The
Yeah, sure. We
playoffs?
might as well. Yeah, we might as well.
the whole of Pro
I'm gonna go
League?
G2. I'm gonna go G2.
Okay.
Very, very out there prediction.
Yeah.
My head wants to go G2, but my heart wants to say FaZe.
I'm
They
going
just finished
FaZe with
Grand
you,
Slam?
Neokai.
Yeah, man.
FaZe.
Let's just go FaZe.
Let's go FaZe.
I want to go FaZe just because like
Okay.
it would be
two
cool.
of us going with the heart, 2 of us going with the head.
There
Well,
we go.
I'll take that. That's fine by me.
All right.
I guess we can move on to what has been basically taking Twitter by storm for the last 2 weeks, which is Source 2.
Yes.
This has been
Oh my
all the
God.
rage. It has been
People aren't sleeping.
I know. And also, of course, tomorrow is when Steam do their regular updates. So tomorrow, as the time of the recording, which is Monday. Tuesday is when Steam do their regular updates. And tomorrow is going to be the same thing. I mean, I've been part of it. I'm not even going to lie. The last 2 Tuesdays, I'm normally up anyway.
You've been staying
but
awake.
I've been like waiting until at least like 2 a.m. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, fuck this. But just because. So how do you guys think this is going to happen? So I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he brought up a pretty good point that when CSGO was released, like CSGO, it was like there was a build up to it where Valve tweeted, CSGO is coming out on this day, the beta is released on this day at this time. It wasn't just like an operation where they just drop it, or like a new case where they just drop it. And part of me thinks that's going to be the case here. Where I kind of just assume that Valve aren't going to just drop it. Like, I know it's a very Valve thing to do, but part of me thinks that normally when you release, I know it's not like a new game, but it kind of is in a way with like the new trademark and whatever, that they'll at least say like, okay, on this date, the beta goes live kind of thing. Or do you guys think they're just going to just throw
I
it?
have a very short opinion, so I'll get mine out of the way
Go on.
first. I just think it's going to be, 1, remove the terrorist and counter-terrorist tags, so it's more marketable, the game in general. It's going to be like the Dota revamp, what they did with Dota. I don't know anything about Dota, but I've read up some stuff about it.
Yeah.
How they transformed that into the Source 2 engine. That'll make the game easier for workshop stuff.
Yeah.
All the Source 2 tools can be given to all the workshop and skin creators and all that sort of stuff. And the game might very well be. The Richard Lewis article is certainly a bit misleading because it's not going to be a brand new game, but I do think that we are going to see a Counter-Strike 2. That we are going to see a rebrand of it. I think that is what we're heading toward. It's not going to be mind-bending, but it is very exciting still for the future and the longevity of the game.
I think people expect the wrong thing. I think people are thinking like this is like a brand new
All
game.
Twitter misinformation.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It like the vast, like especially early doors when it gets ported over to Source 2, it's the exact same thing what happened with Dota when it got ported over. It just makes Valve's life easier to make changes to maps and do stuff like that. I think people are expecting this whole brand new game. Like I guess like when it was with like Source and 1.6 and Go, that they were so different to each other in terms of the mechanics. I don't think anything like that will be different. I don't think the mechanics itself will be all that different. The only things maybe. These are on people's checklist, like 128 tick servers for which I think is a pretty easy
Skins will be
ask.
kept, no issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that sort of thing.
I mean, One spoke about it. Like skins bring them in. Like every month they make. Every month 20 on average 20 million cases are opened. Like there's no way they're getting rid of that
20
market.
million times £2. There you go, 40 million in the bank.
Exactly.
I'm just so mad at Valve for not putting in like a bigger team. Right, and with all this money that they have, like CS has been the number one game for like years.
They make that money with the kind of crew that they have right now. That they're just like,
As far as I know, there are 2 people working on CS. No, maybe not in the Source 2 update like path. I would absolutely imagine that I maybe have to add a few more people every now and then, because apparently, as far as I know, Valve do like mix up their departments between games, like if they're more busy on one or the other. But in general, as far as I've heard, they normally have 2 people working on the game. So
that's crazy.
And they make what? How much? Like billions a year. And it's 2 people running it. I hope they get paid well. Oh my god, Jesus. Gabe is printing money.
I echo a lot of sentiments that you have, Trav. I don't think it's going to be too big of a change, but I think as far as the kind of ramifications of it, I'm really excited just to have more eyeballs on it, and because it's in the zeitgeist right now. Like I think every major like gaming channel is talking about it. Like Voice Critical, XQC, Lyric, a lot of these big name people are all talking about it, and that's what makes me most excited, because I want more people to understand how incredible of a game this is, and if they could just see what we see about it, right? And it was just a fraction of that, I think it would be so invigorating for our esports scene as well. That, I mean, who knows the kind of trajectory that we can have now. This could be that last little injection that we need to start competing against the big name, I don't know, sports, esports, whatever you want to consider mainstream. We could start to have that conversation, and I think that this is like the next best step. Just putting a 2 at the end of it is obviously going to just bring it into the conversation. People are just going to be excited about it. It doesn't have to be a new game, i.e. you can see the Overwatch to Overwatch 2 thing. The game itself is not very different, but everybody is playing it now. It's a huge talking point because they just saw it 2 at the end of the day.
I never played Overwatch 1. I only played Overwatch 2. I saw the hype. I fell into it.
I'll be honest. I fell into the same thing as well. I downloaded the game. It was free to play. I said,
it was free. That was the big
screw
one.
it. Let's do it.
Wait, it's free to play?
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, it is.
That's the only reason I played it.
Okay.
It's good fun, man. It's actually quite fun. It's like if you can hold a mouse in CS, you will farm on Overwatch. They're so bad. Like everyone sucks. So it's so good.
Well, I think that same token, if we do the same thing with Counter-Strike, we won't have too big of a difference. We'll have a different engine change. But the biggest proponent is that now it's more marketable. More people are gonna see it. More people want to play it. People are gonna realize it's a lot better of a game than Valorant.
And also, the niche, Reddit 4chan community who will get up in arms about the loss of the word terrorist and counter-terrorist. Fuck off. No one cares. Go away. You're like 0.01% of the people. Like anyone who actually cares about the esport and the game knows how important it is, because there's a world, and a very, very legitimate world, where if they change the branding so there's no counter-terrorist and terrorist, and it's a little bit more brand friendly, and maybe even small things, which I know some people will still get a little bit iffy about, but it's very doable, where for esports, Valorant does this, for example, where you can turn off blood for the esport. So when you're streaming it, it's like a 12 game or whatever, which means that there's a very real potential in the future, not this one, but maybe in like a decade's time, that we could see a game like Counter-Strike at the Olympics, which is like very, very legitimate. And that's like the big thing.
If
I
the
think
Olympics
that
know what they're doing.
Yeah,
by what they've been tweeting.
Yeah,
and
if they're not making their own pay-to-win games owned by the Olympics.
What is that tweet I saw where there's a game being played at the Olympics?
Okay, so
it's like an archery game, right?
No, more than that. There's multiple. So there's an archery, a table tennis, or a tennis one, like a golf one or whatever. They're all owned by the Olympics, and they're all pay to win. So the money goes back to the Olympics. They're just printing money with their own game. That's it's so corrupt. It's insane.
Wii Sports would have been better.
And the way that they justified it as well is like, oh, so we've made these mobile games, so they're user friendly. Everybody, like, they're accessible. I mean, so not everybody in the world, especially in kind of poorer third world countries, can't get consoles or PCs or whatever to run these games. So, but mobile, is very popular. Like India, huge mobile gaming population because it's not exactly accessible in terms of getting PCs. And that was their argument. And then someone was like, well, why are all your games pay to win then? And then so they had to instate a rule after the outroar saying, oh, we're going to cap how much pay to win you can actually do so it's fair. Like, it's just insane. They just want to print money. It's owned by the Olympics. Like, it's just
crazy.
But when they sort their shit out and they actually get it fixed, there's a real world where games like, realistically, probably the shoe-in games is like Rocket League will probably be like an app. That'll be the first one. I'm sure of it. But then probably Dota League. I don't know which one's actually the most popular. I don't play either, so I don't know which one's the biggest one.
League for sure.
Okay,
yeah.
So then it'll be like Rocket League, League of Legends, maybe even something like an Apex or a Siege, but I think Siege is dying, and I don't think Apex is actually that big. But then CS is probably a lock-in. CS now isn't, because there's no way on a public stage having the word terrorist in there. But when they make it brand friendly, if they do, then I think there's a real world. So it's a very good thing.
Would you prefer CTT or attack defense, or do you just not care?
Attack defense. I think CT and T is still an insinuation of counter-terrorist and terrorist, which is still a problem.
That's what I thought. But even removing the word itself, whether it's an insinuation or not, I think that still doesn't make too much.
Olympics wouldn't touch it. Or I think the general media, especially no offense, you two, Nart and Annie, but fucking hell, your American media with GTA causes school shootings and stuff. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. For sure. It's like the stats,
our media is so bad over here.
The stats prove literally otherwise. But I'm not going to get into a political discussion now. But you know what I mean.
I will say,
media will get the wrong idea if it still says CT. Because like, oh, it means counter-terrorist, and So I feel like attack defense is just a smart way of doing it.
Fair enough.
Or maybe something else. I don't actually think they'll use attack defense just because I don't think they want to copy Valorant. So
yeah, maybe.
So I think they might even think of something else.
What is funny to me is over all the years, very clearly. I mean, there was a video put out by one of the Valve reporter YouTubers. I think his name's Tyler McVicker. I think is the guy who does it. And he posted a video saying that very obviously this sort of Source 2 port has probably been in the works since even before COVID.
Long time,
right?
Yeah.
Like it's been in the works for a very long time, and that's probably the CS:GO Twitter people. Giggling away to themselves, typing Counter-Strike full stop for the last 4 years. All the majors come around. They know what's coming and we didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, when it drops, it's going to be a big deal. It's not going to change a massive amount. But if it gives us opportunity to revamp matchmaking full stop, give us better servers, like a zero-tick system or whatever it is, better servers, and then maybe some sort of ladder that actually makes MM worth it. Imagine the player base that'll bring to the game again.
And I think another thing is just making the new player experience better. We had the addition of unranked matchmaking. I think that's great. That's awesome. But I still think that actually getting into competitive and trying to rise to the ranks is awful right now. It is. I literally just played a matchmaking game just today, and we 9-0'd a team, and it was our whole squad is Supreme and Globals, and we played against Silvers. That should not be happening, and that is what turns away players from playing the game, because they just don't want to approach that. It's just not feasible. So I think if they balance the matchmaking ranks, it could really, really enhance kind of the player base, just the retention of players to come back and continue to play and actually try to rank up. If we make that a feasible reality, I think we'll be in for some really, really good features.
Okay, big thing for me then. What is everybody's checklist, top 3 or top 5 things that they want coming in? I think everyone's kind of throwing around a few things. What is everybody's kind of top 3 or top 5 kind of key things that they want with Source 2?
For me, number 1, this is all I care about: 128 tick.
Really? Yeah. So I thought you were going to say the same one as me.
I have 4,000 nades on my second channel, nades out here.
Yeah.
So if they change the tick rate, and then all my work is bye-bye, I have to start from scratch.
Well, I thought you were going to say the same one that is the same as me, and probably the same as Paladin as well, is a much better demo system. I think the demo UI system
I don't have an issue with the demo system.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think it's clunky as fuck. I think it's so clunky.
If you get the commands down, the actual key commands for speeding up, pausing, and slowing down, I think it's fine. I think
Mate,
if
Valorant don't even
anything,
have a demo system. Like,
No,
look
they
how
don't.
far we are ahead of this shit
true.
game.
I think if anything, right? If anything, it would just be quick round skips and round rewind. And if I actually want to skip to round 28, I think that's the worst thing. If I accidentally go to a different demo and I missed a round and I have to go back, I have to now systematically click through round 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It used to be even worse, where that even would be a struggle. But I think that's also like it's nitpicking at that point. But I think overall we still have a pretty competent demo.
Yeah. I just find it a little bit clunky, to be honest. But maybe I don't really have all the keybinds really like affected. I don't have locked in. I kind of am doing it like the NPC
Oh, that's
way.
why you got to have the shortcuts. I can give you the shortcuts.
Well, yeah, the console's
Yeah.
awful. I hate the
It's
console.
so
But
bad.
if you got your binds, I think it's.
Okay, so Paladin, give me a top 3.
I think 128 tick is pretty up there. I'd like a revamped matchmaking ladder, just because I think it would incentivize both the lowest end of the stick and the highest. And I think that would bring in pro players, and that would just make it for more exciting. It should be more exciting in general. I know Leech was talking about it way back when. And I guess that's pretty much it. I'd like a map pool change. That doesn't sound that big scale, but I just like a map pool change. I'd like just get
Please
Vertigo
no.
out, add in Tuscan, or take out Vertigo and add in.
Did you see the leaks on that?
Yeah, they bought the maps.
Right, with
They
the
bought
yeah,
Tuscan.
yeah.
150K.
Yeah. One of my friends is a map maker, so he's made like for example, he's made what's the wingman map?
Wingman map.
Boyards, like that's his
God,
map.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's garbage. I've told him. But Boyard, for example, he's made, and he makes a lot of the danger zone maps. So like Vineyard at the moment is his. That old snow one, I forget what it's called. Frostbite, I think it's called. He's made. He's the guy who made all them. Quoting, big shout out to my guy, top guy. Went to university with him. Funny enough, just ended up being at uni together. But really top guy. But I was speaking to him about like how it works. I don't know if any of you guys saw the video that Pixel did recently. It was like as a stream, but it got clipped up, went pretty viral, where he spoke about the money between skins and maps. Like so skin makers, so a blue skin, just like a terrible skin or whatever, they were getting 420k is how much you get. Any skin you make. So they brought on this one guy, I forget his name.
Yeah.
But he made one of the worst skins I've seen. It was like a Galil that was just green. It was just like not
crazy.
Good. 420k. But then a map, which is like the what defines anything basically.
Yeah.
150k. That to me felt very weird. I always felt like maps should get more in a way.
It's funny though, like obviously Valve are incredibly ridiculously rich.
Yeah.
But at least we do know that they're putting money in somewhere, right? Because before this wasn't necessarily as publicized as much. Now we know like they're at least giving people who are adding to the game careers.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Which is fantastic. But anyway,
just side note, Quoting told me there's a guy, apparently a Russian guy, who has 17 skins in the game. Just imagine how much money he's getting.
Well, there you go. Do the math in that one.
Yeah. 420k per skin. He is living pretty. But apparently the skin community hate each other. It's really toxic because of how much money it is. Like it's just like super like they're at each other's throat all the time. So
anyway, we're getting on a bit.
Right,
so let's go on to the next subject. I think. Oh, actually, no. My 3 things.
Yeah.
128 tick. A better MM system, because that'll, whether it's 128 tick or not, people will still want to play better matchmaking. And I would actually agree with the Tuscan change, but I'm going to pick something a bit more wild. I'm going to pick a better server browser, because that
Community
server
servers.
is absolutely
that's a good one.
broken.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. That was one of mine. Community better.
It's gotten like worse somehow. Like
It's
I don't
so bad.
know how it's possible.
Awful right
I
now.
used to love playing retakes on it, but now it's just filled with shit. Like even getting towards like if you type in retakes and you search one, trying to find it, it's just horrible. Like one that's actually working, where I don't have to pay a membership as well, or like wait in a queue, and it's like on like not like, and there's like something on like Aztec. Like why am I playing retakes on Aztec? Like dumb stuff like that. Yeah, that's one of mine.
I think that's gonna get added though, because I was part of the Dota 2, the Source 2 engine, and they changed the whole UI.
There we go.
So
okay, but not for you. What's your top 3?
128 MM ranking changed to Elo base, and then third one, I'm gonna say like I don't believe in it. Like they don't have to, but a lot of people want them to. Is anti-cheat. Like I don't have any issues with anti-cheat in my matchmaking. I haven't ran into a cheater in like a year.
I actually think the system they've got in place, the
Mhm.
Trust factor is that I'm on about?
Yeah,
It
trust
is,
factor,
right?
yeah.
Actually, I
Pretty
think
accurate.
it actually is working pretty. I don't think it's a failure right now at all.
Yeah.
Like, you'll get people who complain about cheaters, but I haven't seen one in a
Same.
year. So like,
Okay,
you know.
you're lucky. I have some pretty bad
Yeah,
ones.
it's because you.
but-
That's
Oh,
'cause
you
shit
got
talk
low.
everyone.
You're griefing.
You shit talk
You're getting
everyone, mate.
reported.
No. Actually, the main reason I know this for a fact. The main reason why I get bad lobbies or occasionally bad lobbies is because two of my friends are 4K elo on Faceit, so we get insta reported for cheating. Those two do,
Yeah.
and I queue with them, but they're like
GG.
demons. They're so good. Like, you know, both of them are playing semi-pro at one point. Like two of the guys, they used to be on a team with Nerts and Boros. Like that's how good they are. And we get insta reported every game because we stomp
Unlucky.
basically all of our games. So that I think's cursed. I wish there was some way of fixing that because they're very obviously not cheating. But then, you know, they get so reported so often because we win so often that it kind of comes back on us. So we then end up get it coming against cheaters. Again, not that often to be honest. I'd probably say it was once every 3 weeks, month max. But yeah, I think the Ring Zero cheating software that Riot have, I don't like. I don't think many people would be all too happy with it either. Like, I know people kicked off when it was brought in for Valorant, so I don't think.
Face it sweating.
Faceit sweating. If they get actually a competent system, but then
Yeah.
part of me thinks, does Valve want to mess that up? Because I guess it's not actually lucrative for Valve in a way. It's actually taking people away from their servers. I don't know. I don't actually know what Valve's view on Faceit is, whether they even care, like in terms of like stealing their competition away, or do they actually want to work alongside them, whatever. And I'm not too sure what they would think, but a competent matchmaking system would be nice. The elo thing is kind of cool as well. I guess you can get a pretty good idea of kind of where you stand.
Either way, Faceit's not going to lose like FPL and stuff like that.
No.
So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The
so
only
I think
thing-
that they're safe.
I don't know how they change it. The one thing I've noticed just recently, so like I came back after not playing CS for like a while, lost 3 games in a row and ranked down to Supreme. And then me and my mate's like, and we all ranked down to Supreme. 3 games in a row lost, down to Supreme. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Rank decay plus I haven't played in a while. And then to get back up to global, it took something it took about a week and a half and something along the lines of like 35 out of 40 games won to get back up to global. And then we lost 3 games again. And
it's gone.
one of them was a cheater.
So you
and
want
back
a
down
better
to
way
secret.
to know how you're ranking.
Yeah, like-
the fact it's invisible is so like you just don't know. Like it's as simple as that.
Yeah, so like, and that's scuffed as fuck as well. Because then you like, you know, win 35 out of 40 games. Like my mate was actually counting, rank up, lose 3. One of them being to a blatant cheater as well, down to a Supreme again. Like it's so unrewarding. So that I don't know how they fix those sort of things, but that's up there for me. Moving on.
Wait. One more thing about Source 2.
Go on.
With the Richard Lewis article, do you guys believe in Valve flying pros to Seattle to test it out,
No.
or just like having pros test it out?
When did I have time? When did I have time?
There is no space for them to do it. That's the issue.
I was trying to explain to my friend.
Did you see Kerrigan at EPL interview?
Oh,
hilarious.
That was a hilarious skit. Or I don't know if it's real
So
or not.
Yeah. No, so
Like,
my
they did it. They did it for the beginning ago.
Yeah.
But why would they do
The
it now?
schedule's so
The scene's
different.
The scene's so packed. Like it just doesn't make sense.
My
to me. I don't
friend
think it's-
believed that hook, line, and sinker. The only one that I think is actually true. I don't know if you guys saw. Get Right took a picture in it, like of like a CS:GO person, and someone like proved it was in the office. I think they've flown people. If they were to do it, I think they've flown people. I don't think they've flown pros. There's no schedule. Like there's no time in the schedule. Like Carrigan is obviously like he's a bit of a memer. We all know he has like fucking Batman mask and stuff. Like he loves it. Like he loves a good like a little bit of banter here there. There's no way they flew pros. There's just no time. My friend believed that hook, line, and sinker. Like, oh my god, he signed an NDA. No, he hasn't. He hasn't. There's just no time for them unless
Overdrive came out today saying Navi's had it for like 2 months or something.
Yeah, but Overdrive also loves to lie as well.
Yeah, so I don't.
He's an opinion-based reporter, not a fact. That's where I've come to the conclusion. Like he's also
Listen,
calling domination hard cheaters right now just because they won advanced.
They could easily be true. Like there's a few factors that we're all like scoffing at that could easily turn out to be true. That who knows, maybe even a while ago that
That's what I was thinking.
A break in the calendar. Then maybe
The only time I can imagine it is if it was in the player break back in August, right? Because that's the only time they would have had spare time. But then would the players want to have done that? Who knows? I think if they were to do it, it would have had to be either over Christmas, which I don't think they would have done, or in the player break in August. But then how much of the like beta would have been ready, I don't know. So a lot of things play into it. All right, so
I want to just because actually what we've got next actually is something that I believe, Neo, me and Paladin and you both have already spoken about this on a previous episode. So I think it's a thing that we kind of want to get Nart's thoughts on in general, as I think he was also the one who suggested it. So this Richard Lewis article about competitive CSGO is garbage right now. My overall thoughts is that this is both true and false, if depending on what tier you look at, because I think tier 2 has never been as ridiculous as it is now. You see so many upsets, but that does sort of, lean into the fact that, in my opinion right now, G2 and Heroic are the only two S-tier teams. Liquid and below, like, they are very, very shaky and don't have, like, incredibly consistent map pools. So obviously we're just going to get your thoughts on it, onto where I actually think that stands and what you think Richard Lewis really meant from it originally.
You pretty much touched base on it, Trav. I agree with you. Like, the only top 2 teams are Heroic and G2 at the moment. Everyone below that is just super shaky. The CSGO scene at EPL, there's like a lot of stand-ins. Yes. At the player break, like he said in the video, there wasn't any like blockbuster roster moves. And what I liked about in the video, he said G2 and Heroic should be at events while everyone else should be resolving their issues until the major.
That's fair. That's fair, because you've got Na'Vi, Vitality, FaZe, and Cloud9. That's 4 teams which you'd want to be premier, S-tier semis nearly every single time, at least fighting the G2 and Heroics of the world, which would make the scene so much more fascinating, but they're just iffy and they're wishy-washy. FaZe are not the FaZe they once were. They're still desperately trying to find the Grand Slam, and they have not found it yet.
The last major speaks about it too, right?
Yeah.
That like FaZe 03, what? Na'Vi, Cloud9, easy way to the finals?
Yeah.
Nope. Yep. So
I think there's also so this is what we were saying. I don't know how you'd agree with this or disagree, not, but what I said in responses, because we spoke about this, I think last episode, and my opinion on this was essentially, I think it depends on what generation you're from. And I think the Thorns and Richard Lewis of the world, who are the older generation, they've been working before I've even been playing CSGO. Never mind watching it. They were always used to there being one dominant team, whether it was NIP, 870, or Fnatic, or whoever, even Astralis, right, dominant for 4 years. Where when I started watching CSGO, which was like really watching CSGO, which was 2018. From then onwards, there was always, it was a lot more choppy and changey, where it wasn't, one team locked in for 2-3 years or whatever. It always had been a little bit. And then when I really started getting involved in commentating, which is the end of 2020 to 2021, even then it was like still changing all the time. Two different major winners coming through, Na'Vi getting it for the first time. Then after that as well, we got FaZe coming through with their new roster. So for me, I've always liked upsets. Like, I love an underdog story, but I guess also part of it is because I work alongside a lot of these underdogs, so to say, like the tier 2 teams. So like me seeing Gamer Legion come through and perform really well at the last RMR.
That was fantastic.
For a lot of people, that was like, oh my God, what a shock. For anybody involved though, who actually knew the players, who worked like the way, I guess me, Trav, Paladin do quite a lot, but we watch a lot of these guys. It wasn't that much of a shock because we know how talented they were. Shuhei and Miles and XT, I just finished doing 2 seasons of the We Play Academy League, and I knew how good this guy was. He was calling a masterclass. So yeah, I don't know. For me, in my opinion, I like it being unpredictable because I remember specifically as well Stockholm Major is probably a good example. It was so clear cut that Na'Vi were going to win. Nobody else was even close to them. And part of me was like, well, G2 are going to get to the final. Let's be honest, not going to do anything. And everyone knew that. Like, I even remember like on the quarterfinals, like in the players' hotel, everybody was saying the same thing. It's like, oh well, yeah, Na'Vi are here. I remember the G2 guys were in the lobby, like having drinks and playing pool and table tennis. None of the Na'Vi boys were there. They were all prepping kind of thing because it was just a different mentality. Everyone was kind of on this idea like, yeah, Na'Vi have got it. Like this is comfy, but I like it now that going in towards into Paris, I haven't got a clue who's winning it. Like I cannot make a prediction. And same way who we made predictions for Rio. I think Rio's slightly different. I think Rio was actually a bit of a shit major, all things considered, because it was just like
you get a Krakow every now and then.
Yeah, very
you get a
underwhelming
PGL
team.
Krakow that
That
crops up,
was
exactly
that was weird.
Underwhelming teams, underwhelming games. It didn't help with the crowd just being no shows. Basically, that really didn't help the atmosphere. But I think for me, I like that it's unpredictable coming towards Blast. Like that for me is really exciting because it's like I cannot predict anything. I don't know, but I don't know where you stand in terms of what your views on it.
You put a good perspective because I didn't think about it that way when I was watching his video.
Mm-hmm.
But like, do you guys like? So these teams are like, do you enjoy like them being like this shaky compared to compared to G2 and Heroic? Everyone else just being
I really don't,
inconsistent.
Man. Because to me, the CS is not even. It doesn't feel like it's earned at this point. Like you see these like kind of close games, and you see it just come down to individual form and like, let's say just map vetoes and stuff like that. I don't like when the game is decided just by that. I like it when the foundation of both of these teams are neck and neck, and then the thing that breaks it apart is the individual form, or maybe like a heroic play here or there. No pun intended. But basically that trying to break open the game and then break open like kind of the two foundations, that's what makes it exciting. When I think about the greatest games of all time, I mean, if you want to talk about the most recent example, FaZe Na'Vi at Cologne, the reason why that game was exciting and was so incredible to watch was not necessarily just because of the individual plays that were made, but it's the individual plays in context of the game. Tactically, these are both the best teams in the world. They're both showing that they fundamentally understand the game to the highest level, right? Like they're both producing just incredible defaults, and it's basically like a chess match with the most individually skilled players in the world. And then when you have those individually skilled kind of experiences happen, like the Twist jump down from silo, or the Twist 1v3 on overpass. I could talk about Twist all day, but if those plays happen in that context, it just makes it that much more exciting. That's when CS feels like the most exciting esport, is when all these teams have got all their shit figured out and the foundations of all these teams are really solid. And I don't feel like we have that beyond Heroic and G2. Like their systems are rock solid right now. But again, as you're saying, Travis, you go down the list, Navi's system is meager. Liquid is super faulty. Vitality, who the hell knows? I mean, I'm sure outsiders have got shit figured out in terms of system, but they don't have enough firepower to go above and beyond. And I could continue to list off excuses for all of these teams, and we need that kind of reset period that we've had in so many different eras, where all of these teams start to vie against the top and actually make competent roster decisions. And until then, we can't say that we're gonna head to an era where everybody has got their shit figured out yet. Till that happens, we can't say.
For me though, what in my point, what I'm saying is I don't, trust me, I don't like watching Na'Vi play shaky CS and have MPL getting six kills after 32 rounds. That's like not enjoyable concept. But what I don't like it. I just think like I kind of like the storylines around the likes of, let's say for example, if things were figured out and it was like, coming in towards this major, it could be very comfortably between G2, Heroic, Liquid, FaZe. If all of them were actually in the form, I don't like the shaky side of the CS, but I don't like there being at times the out and out favorite. Like when Astralis were winning everything, I was like, that's when I started really getting invested in towards CS when Astralis were winning everything. And it was like, I remember like the hype wasn't as much for me, like going in towards majors being like, well, Astralis are obviously going to win this. Like it's just it's the classic. Like it's not actually going to be any variation. So like it's more like for me, I remember getting excited to see who's going to be in the semis. And then, you have Astralis versus a Vanguard as a final. I'm like, oh, brilliant. Like, this is going to be an absolute blowout. And of course, like it was. But then like for now, like coming in towards Blast, it's like, let's say in a dream world, it was coming towards Blast and it was more like G2, Heroic, Liquid, FaZe, not Na'Vi, not as long as they have the MPL, but like, there's like a good 5 or 6 teams who are all actually on their form. That's what I like more. The unpredictability where it's actually kind of cool, where it's like who shows up on the day kind of thing, but as actually big teams rather than just pure upsets. Like, obviously, Rio was just pure upsets along the way and it was just kind of meh.
Yeah, and we haven't seen that Na'Vi and FaZe since that Cologne that Paladin really described. Like, that was the last time we really saw them at the very peak of their powers, in my opinion. And that's just sad, because we want to see these teams there and fighting. And, I mean, we mentioned it when we both spoke about the article, like competitive Counter-Strike has come such a long way. I have absolutely no doubt that a quality EU advanced team now, maybe even a quality EU main team, could push their NIP 87-0 roster pretty close, and maybe even beat them.
Not
That's
gonna
just how
lie,
it
I'm pretty
is.
sure Spirit Academy are a main team this
Oh,
season.
yeah, I mean,
Art
like-
Frost and Donk are fucking up. Get right and Forest back then. I
Yeah,
don't
no
care.
chance, mate.
No chance.
Like, that's just the reality of the situation. So while Richard Lewis's point about maybe as a whole is incorrect when it comes to tier 2, because that level is as more as advanced as it's ever been.
Yeah.
At tier 1 and S tier, it's not what we want it to be, and he's absolutely right on that fact. And it's a shame, because that's what I hope that we do see in Paris, the Na'Vi and FaZe, and maybe even a Cloud9. I actually don't trust in Cloud9 more than I trust in Vitality, actually.
Well, with Dupree, I think
with
as well.
Dupree, yeah, as well. I actually think that if they can somehow step up and get to a level that they can fight a G2 heroic, even if maybe G2 heroic's level drops ever so slightly and brings them down to their level. Not sure if that's necessarily visible, whether that we can see that with our own naked eye, whether they drop down a level or not, whether we know whether we can tell it's an excellency from FaZe or Na'Vi rather than their level falling remains to be seen. But yeah, I want to see it better, and it makes sense what Richard is saying.
Okay, there we go. I guess we can move on to. I guess we can move on to my low light. Probably, somewhat, because it can also then transfer in towards transfers as well. I mean, it's kind of we can kind of swing into both. So my low light, an interesting one. This has been kind of a talking point that we've sort of come back to here and there. It's Sprout, who just continued to go from worse to worse. They brought in Zello. I think that was a really good signing. I think as an AWPer, when he was on the Nexus, this guy was unbelievable, playing really well. But I think, obviously his form hasn't really picked up at all. They were in desperate need of an IGL refresh. It comes out with this article, has a bit of a stutter. It's not really working out for him. Decides he doesn't want to do this anymore. He steps back from the roster. And with him stepping back, then Zypher steps back in, who was initially benched. Berry had been playing with the squad for a little bit of the time as well. But they bring in Azza. Massive curveball, first of all. This guy has been unheard of for like 9 months and then comes out of nowhere. I like the signing, though. I think Azza's actually a pretty good player. I think he was one of the real shiny lights over towards Extremo. I think he's probably the second most important player behind Jacob in my eyes. I think even Bentet was pretty flaky at times. But yeah, it just is not working. It's been so rough. I think, if I'm right in saying, 2023 so far has been 5 wins, 19 losses. Like, that has been the story of their 2023.
So many games with Berry just makes it look awful, right?
Yeah, but even still, like, even when they've had like non-Berry and prior to, I think Berry only ended up playing like 5 games. So okay, you take him out, it's like it's still some pretty bad statistics. And then when you consider that 2 of those 5 wins are one against Dusty. The last thing Dusty did was win an Epic LAN. And then Harvu, who, let's be honest, Harvu are they're below mid. It just shows how poor this side is going, and they keep going from like worse to worse, where they're losing comfortably to teams that start of the year we never even would have thought. You run down the list now into the breach, getting 2-0'd by them. When UKCS is trumping you, got to really start to get a little bit worried. iNation getting 2-0 over you. All of these kind of even mid-tier 2 teams like going down this list that are just so average and really shouldn't be beating them. It's so concerning.
Yeah, in my main thought about this is what I've mentioned before, and I'll let you take the floor after this. This is just a quick one. I feel bad for Zello because he historically for ages said he was comfortable on Nexus. That's why he was a prospect for so long, and he just never wanted to leave. He never wanted to leave because he wanted stability, communicating with his countrymen on Nexus in the Romanian environment, and finally, he makes a move after his little stand-in sort of trial stint on Ecstatic. He goes to Sprout, and we think, okay, this is a great call. And he's been launched into an absolute shit show. And I really do feel bad for him. It must be so hard translating your playstyle from one IGL to another in such a short space of time as well. I think, as you say, Azza's left field, but I don't mind the call. They need time. But the time is running out when it comes to how close the RMR is, so they need to figure some shit out very quickly. And, if Zello doesn't step up his numbers, which I believe was 0.94 or something last 3 months, that's just not what an AWPer should be. then they're not going to do anything,
The
unfortunately.
only thing is, the caveat here about Zello, and this is a thing that I've now noticed having watched a lot of their recent games, because before I was going to start doing tweets, I needed to see what was going on. I even got to the point where I was demo watching Zello to see how things, what has gone wrong, why are things so bad, and it's actually not his fault. Like, basically, he on Nexus, everything revolved around Zello. It was Zello go kill, this guy can do anything. Like how Regalia played on Copenhagen Flames, where it was like, you are the win factor. If you don't play well, we're not going to play well. So play in your positions that are comfy. Go hunting for frags because you're an aggro AWPer the way you kind of should be, right? And basically now he's coming towards Sprout and he's not playing like that. He's rigid, like super rigid. I saw him on Ancient playing A-Site Temple. And it's like, this is a guy who should be flying into mid, flying in towards B ramp, like taking fights left, right, and center, not sitting parked up, scoped for 1 minute 20 seconds over towards A-Site Temple. Like, that's not Zello. So they are limiting him. And I think we're seeing now the limitations of people like Barry as a coach, because he hasn't got a lot of coaching experience. I know he's got a lot of IGLing experience, but in terms of coaching experience, Sprout is the only coaching experience he's actually got, well, on paper anyway. And you're essentially someone who could potentially be a star player, despite all the people they've got on their roster with Launex, Stare, Zyphon, even if you want to bring that one, but he's obviously more of a support player. They've got this guy Cozello who is such a rocket, and they're not playing him like that. I think they're limiting themselves, and they are shooting themselves in the foot.
He's in the Slack system still.
No, he is.
Slack's
He's playing the same roles. He's doing exactly the same thing. They haven't changed anything.
Slacks never went aggressive. It was just a supportive AWPer. He'd be a flash assist AWPer.
No, that is what Zello's doing as well. He is literally a support player. He's not playing how Zello should be playing, which is Zello go kill. And if it was Zello go kill with Launex go kill and Stare go kill, this team would dominate tier 2. I don't think they'd be able to translate it towards tier 1, because when you play aggressive like that, you will actually end up getting farmed, as we've seen with Furia. But in tier 2, they should be on top, like top 20 team, like the way an Eternal Fire are or a B&E are. Exactly. But they're now 40th in the world, and it's only getting worse.
So that's like similar to like the Liquid problem, right? With OC as the opper. He's more, I feel like, as a supportive opper when they have like those riflers like a Kinder and a Liege. So is that how Excello is?
Yeah, so I mean, he was like, so back in Nexus, which he'd been there for like 3 years or something like that. And it was like, everybody knew this guy was a prospect. Like, you could see on paper, but not even just on paper, the eye test. So you watch him play, any team that, whenever they play against, in tier 2 tournaments, they were always underdogs, because Nexus as a team were pretty meh. Yeah. But he was just unbelievable. And everybody, it's the same way when Nert's playing on Endpoint. Endpoint, as a team, shit. No one thinks they're any good. However, Nertz is different gravy. Like, that guy is seriously talented. It was the same thing for Zello. He was just so good. But Sprout are playing him just completely out of his comfort zone in terms of it's just now just sit and wait. And you see even now he's playing like rotate so often as well, which I think as a star AWPer, you just shouldn't be doing. Like, imagine playing Zywoo as a supporting rotate player. Like, it's just like, what is the point? Like, it's such a waste. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah, I think the most worrying thing, in my opinion, is that you don't want to lose the confidence and the goodwill of your younger players. And I'm talking Stare, I'm talking Zyphon and Launex. This core is a core that should be trying to compete tier 1. And we've seen them compete at tier 1 when the going gets tough. And if you fail and bomb out of this major cycle, that is where they have people and teams and organizations that will definitely want to snap you up. Yeah. And so Sprout as an organization had done really good in terms of the free agent scouting and picking up all these players. It's super awesome that they've theoretically made all the right moves, but it's not actually working out. But at the end of the day, results are needed. And if you can't actually get those results, those players are all going to be out the door. There are so many different teams that want them as of right now. And I think that's Sprout's most worrying thing. You need to at least kind of compete for the LCQ spot at the very least. Like, I think if they get anything short of that, I think this roster might implode on itself.
Realistically, this team should be, on paper, in the exact same position, if not better than Fours. That's where they should be. Obviously,
like
I know
with Aza or no?
Honestly, even with Az, Az is not actually even the problem. It's the system that for me that feels like the problem. In terms of Lawanex, I think in my eyes, and I think most people would kind of agree, in terms of tier 2 is one of the highest skill ceiling riflers there is going. Stare was wanted by everybody under the sun, including like the likes of Astralis, and they obviously had their funny like no lol kind of tweet, which went massively viral. He's honestly again same thing. Skill level is unbelievable. Zyphon, when that Copenhagen Flames roster disbanded, Dvorborg, when I sat down with him, said, and Niklas said the same thing as well, of any of us on that team, including Fasher or Roy or Niklas himself, anyone, Zyphon is without a shadow of doubt the highest skill ceiling of all of us. Like, if anybody was going to go and become a top 5 player, it's comfortably Zyphon. That's what all of them are saying. Like, he is without a shadow of doubt the player who will go the furthest. And then, yeah, obviously Lawanex, brilliant. Stare, brilliant. Zyphon's sick as well. And then Zello, with what we've seen of him just in 2022 alone, not even the rest of his career, which would be unbelievable. Just 2022 and next, he's looking at, I think he averaged like a 1.4 rating in tier 2 honors. And they were losing most of those games. That's how good he was. Like, he was just such a cut above. So they should be, realistically, on par with the likes of a Fours, which is winning ECL, basically, is like a given. They should be winning ECL, no bother. They should be playing in Pro League, which they failed 2 conferences in a row. They bombed out both times. And if they were to play in a Pro League and this team was actually playing the way that they should do on paper, they should be making it to a playoffs. Granted, probably not much further on from that, but they should be making it the same way, like a Double O Nation are. That's how good they are.
Yeah, if you look at Sprout as a roster, even with Azza, who obviously has been out of action for a while, really he's not absolutely washed up, right? Like, he still has the brain for it, and he's not absolutely botting out in these games. Like, he's doing okay. But if we're looking at teams like you say, like Pain, 0 Nation, and Movistar Riders, Movistar were nowhere for a while. I mean, Sprout were just plainly better than them for so long, and Sprout will be saying to themselves, we should be in that position. So, yeah, it's pretty disappointing. And I honestly, at this point, I would at least ride it out through the major cycle. If they completely bomb out, then I would say I would agree with you. You probably need to either completely disband or just give up on the project and maybe sell on the players, because Sprout might need the money. Who knows? I don't know about that.
But then again, they've also kind of missed an opportunity. Ents came knocking for Lau and X end of 2022,
Right, true.
and they said no. And obviously, when I interviewed Lau, like not long ago, he was pissed. Like, he's obviously very annoyed. I said, a prime opportunity to him to go tier 1. When you speak to him as well, he says like, oh, in the future I'll be on FaZe. Like that's where like his mentals are, that kind of thing. Like, they're so talented, but they're just underachieving. But I think, like you said, Trav, and like you said, Annie, I think if they don't make LCQ at the major, and I actually think they're on target to bomb out. I don't think they're going to get a win right now.
I haven't predicted them to make it.
I'd put money on our nation getting a victory over them comfortably. They've already done it twice in the last 2 months, actually. So I'd put money on the likes of our nation, or definitely an Aurora. I'd put Into the Breach getting wins over Sprout right now comfortably. That's where I see this side at. This is meant to be a B&E Fours level team playing like a endpoint level team. But yeah, that's my low light. They're just bad.
Yeah, it's a shame where they've come from. Like, making the Legends with nobody expected them, and then just coming down, dropping this low.
Yeah, and Refresh was such an integral part of that, and then it all implodes when he feels like he can't RGL anymore because of all those issues. So yeah, it's a shame.
Speaking of Refresh, I guess I can
Good,
move on.
Transition.
Move on to our. Well, I guess onto transfers, but first of all, transfer rumors, and most notably the recent one, which is there's been rumors that Refresh and EG have come to a verbal agreement. What's the thoughts, people? What are we thinking? Mid.
That came out of nowhere, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I think did Refresh did he ever play for Copenhagen Flames? Does he have that connection with Vorburg?
I don't think
know?
so. No.
I'll look.
No.
It was Optic then Heroic for him. No.
It was Fragsters, if you remember Fragsters.
Oh
okay.
God, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he might have had that connection, but
He played.
I mean, he's better than
Hex.
Hex, so that's an upgrade. But
He played on Copenhagen Flames for 2 months.
he did.
did?
Okay.
Played games against like the 2020 Cloud9, the one with which was basically Extra Salt.
Okay.
Played against G2 a few times. Let's see what events he actually played in. Go ahead, guys. I'll dig.
Well, he's not going to be IGLing, so he's
a
gonna
good
go
thing.
back to his standard standard role. So maybe that will bring him back to his old ways.
I still don't feel like this fixes the EG problem. Like I mean, I don't know. I personally still don't have a lot of faith in Wiz.
I heard he's getting replaced
yeah.
by Junior.
I also heard that as well, but then like, part of me just I get Vietnam flashbacks of Furia Junior, and then I want to keel over. So
yeah, Refresh played Flashpoint. Played Flashpoint
Oh,
1,
is it?
and he also played the original Road to Rio from 2020.
oh my god,
The
Jesus!
ESL 1 Road to Rio. So
And then was it from there to Heroic or there to Fragsters?
so from after
Fragsters
that,
was the very beginning.
Fragsters
Oh,
was the very
right.
beginning. He went from Fragsters to Optic to a team called Ambush for a while.
Oh yeah,
Then
French
Copenhagen
French Org.
Flames,
Yeah.
Then Existence, then Mad Lions, then Heroic, then Sprout.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, fair play. Fair play. I actually did not know about the middling part of his career like that.
Overall, though, I agree it's mid. It's like what they're trying to do is they're just desperately trying to claw the main roster out of mediocrity,
Yeah.
and at least be respectable. Because right now they're not respectable.
For sure.
No.
It's still better than what they have now, like these moves that are rumored. Like way better than their current roster.
To be completely honest, I don't think this solves the issue. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that Hext is as big of a problem as, say, a Breezy or a Wiz as of right now. I think that Hext adds so much to this roster that I don't think that Refresh is going to add. And I'm talking the mental energy that he adds to the team.
Sure.
Look, this team can be as bad as it wants, but you got a young player who's hungry and who's still willing to play some really shit roles and take beatings and still come out on top and still show that he has promise, and all while like shit talking players like Katie and like that takes guts. And I don't think that you're gonna get a player like that in North America for a while. And I think that players like Breezy, it's been their time to leave the team for a while now.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that you're bringing in Refresh in now is really, really upsetting to me. And I think that even individually, mind you, I don't even think Refresh was outputting too great of a result for me to say that it just works here. Like, I don't think it's very good by any means. And so
If he can have some heroic form, then there's a chance
Yeah.
he can improve the team.
even then, right?
Or
I think
form
the
like
only,
ideas, protocols. Hopefully
that is what I'm most interested in. What is the secondary calling that he's going to bring into this team? Is it going to elevate the likes of the mid rounding that Nealon desperately needs in mid to late rounds? If so, then sure, I think by all means it'll be a fantastic move. Just because, again, I don't know if you guys have kept up to date with Talking Counter at all, but Kerrigan has mentioned multiple times that he steals his defaults from EG. He steals Nealon's defaults, and the way that he understands.
Really?
Yeah, he says that.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, and he says that since we have since we have some of the best mid to late round players in the entire game, we don't fuck up the rest of the strat. So the strats look much better. And I honestly don't. And if I'm getting the Kerrigan stamp seal of approval, and all I need to fix on my mid to late rounds, Refresh could work in that sense. So I think beyond the individual, I think individually, I actually think it's a downgrade. That might be a bold take, but tactically, I think that it could be pretty neat.
Like tactically, I also want to add like when he was on Heroic, Cadian spoke out like saying like, "Oh, I trusted Refresh on the other side of the map." Like like he knew what he was like to call. Like so, hopefully we can see some of that.
I feel like he'll bring some tactics to like he obviously had an idea of why he ended up picking up the calling role for Sprout. I know it didn't work out because I mean obviously the speech impediment definitely doesn't help.
But he was still good when he was calling. Like I think Sprout looked very competent. You can see that it's really hard to deal with the players that he has in the server. They're very young and they need to be kind of reined in and
micromanaged.
He did a pretty good job at doing that. I think he could do it with these players who honestly at this point have nothing to lose. So I think it could work in that sense. I guess we can continue the conversation about EG in the sense that they have now blown up EG White.
Yes.
And they are molding EG Black as their main academy roster.
Yeah.
As of right now, and
How
I'm actually
always been.
I'm happy.
Exactly. Right.
That's a good move.
I am very happy with that decision. I think one thing is for sure, EG Black was the better roster in the sense that they always had the more playing time, and they showed the best results in ECL. I think in some ways, I know I've had numerous amount of conversations with other NA folks, and they've all said that there's a world that EG Black could beat the EG main team with the kind of caliber of
Okay.
playing that they've shown in the
Mhm.
ECL stages. But I think the biggest takeaway for me personally is that now EG White, the players that are there are now free to actually compete again for major spots.
Yeah.
Because I think they're very, very capable of doing so. They can stick together. They can go about their separate ways. I think Ben Leet will be a very hot commodity as in terms of IGLing. I think Pone alone has still got a lot to give. Even as old as he is, he's still a very, very talented player. And of course, Janji is a player that I think any team could really, really benefit from. So overall, I think that could be a huge boon for the EGY players. Blessing in disguise. Sure, you don't have an organization backing anymore, but now you've got the chance to try to make the rungs up to a bigger NA team, or just get the sticker money for yourself.
I mean, judging by who we've got in the Americas RMR, we've got YUR, like the old
Yeah.
Cassia, who are literally EG rejects. And then you've got like what are they called? Fuscal 1500 or whatever. You know, so many random mixes. Basically, the party Astronauts roster could massively benefit from having those abilities to qualify for RMRs. And I'm not saying they're going to sneak their way to a Legends or a Challenger stage, but getting that experience is absolutely huge for them to be able to get there. And I think there's even a world in which, I mean, judging by the bits and I've seen when you've casted it, Paladin, I'm gonna be honest, it's the only time I ever tune into NA ECL whenever you're casting it. But when you got teams like stream teams like Mythic competing, I'm sure these boys can make their way to ECL, which is good, consistent Counter-Strike being played there, alongside the stuff like them playing FPL plus ECL plus qualifying. I'm sure they do a good job in the old CCTs and whatnot. I'm sure they can make a living wage.
I hope they get invited for a spot.
They will.
They have.
Yeah.
They're too.
Oh,
big.
they have? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have.
Okay, cool.
And that's the thing. I think they can. I know it's bad to lose the org and like the support systems around it, but I think this is such a big thing for them. And I always thought that EG, was it EG White? Was that what they're called? I don't know which one the difference. Yeah, Party Astros. Yeah. So the EGY, I always thought that they were such a waste because all they were basically playing was domestic tournaments and like Fragadelphia and stuff like that. Like,
it's a waste. I agree, but EG have given that PA team a salary for a good chunk of time when they wouldn't have otherwise had it. So at least that's something for them personally. I agree with this move. Yeah, absolutely had to get rid of them, but for their own personal livelihoods, they've made something from this journey, which I'm happy for them. But overall, this is the correct decision, and I believe they are minus Stan plus Hexed on EG Black as well, which is also
is Stan getting dropped.
Yeah.
So Walco has taken the IGL duties a while ago now. So Stan was basically on the team to frag, and of course, that roster move can speak for it itself. He's not necessarily a fragging player.
Yeah.
So they've just opted to bring back in Hext, and they actually look pretty good with him in the role. Walco was already a very good caller, and Hext obviously has synergy with his time at Carpe Diem. So I think it's good for both parties. EG Black looks much more comfortable. Hext can continue developing, and EG Main can sort their own shit out.
Playing devil's advocate as well, I think there's a real world in which if they weren't under EG, I know obviously being on the EG gave them stability and support and money as well, but there's a real world in which they would have done a lot better without them. And I think they actually probably would have, in terms of they would be pretty up there in terms of ECL. They would be up there in terms of the CCTs. There's even a world in which we can see them qualifying to other tournaments, or at least competing within like ESL challenges and stuff like that, and having the possibility of going abroad, because they were actually a pretty decent team before they got picked up by EG. And I think I still personally feel like them being picked up by EG was just so more limiting than it was. I think it was more of a negative than it was a positive overall. I just think in terms of their career.
Buffs now.
Yeah.
Other teams in NA, if they can pick up some of the pieces, it gives them buffs for sure.
Do we know if they're sticking together?
Not yet.
I don't think they've made
it.
Okay. Announcement yet.
Do you think they get sniped up at elsewhere? Do you reckon? Like the likes of
there's also like there's like content creators that want to purchase like that rumor, right? With getting into CS:GO maybe, because I know they've gotten into Valorant.
Moist Critical and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd go for them. I think they like, judging by his previous teams that he's picked up in Rocket League and Apex, they're all teams that would make it to the major. So the only team realistically that he would be looking at as free agents, it's a BNE. But B&E are
Oh,
gonna be,
okay. He only wants contenders.
yeah, he only wants top
Okay.
level contenders. Like
There's no way BNE would say yes though.
B&E have already said yes apparently. Anyway, they're going to Bleed, the Southeast Asian organization.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
From-
I heard about that,
okay.
but at the same time, B&E without an organization are farming sticker money every major.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
you know.
was it? Apparently it's like 1.5 million a person. Apparently it's something stupid like that.
What?
Apparently sticker money is like 1.5 mil a person. Like
That's crazy. I've never heard of that.
Which is
Well,
the
I don't even know
reason-
the amount. That's the first time I heard the amount.
Yeah, well, that's what I got told, which is the reason why they've had a lot, and I'm talking a lot of org offers. They were meant to sign with someone really recently. I can't remember who it was, an EU organization, and essentially the big caveat was that it's pretty common that they take a cut of the sticker money and stuff like that, and
Sure.
it's just like they would end up losing money. Like if that figure is right, it's 1.5 million, like for the sticker money coming through. Because I mean, a lot of sticker captures that get purchased.
Yep.
They
I guess you're right. You don't need an org if you're
yeah
making to the major.
they've done it twice in a row now, right? So that's
Yeah.
them, you know.
Yeah.
And especially not being funny, they're from a region and a country which doesn't really have very high cost of living. They are probably living absolutely luxurious wherever they're actually based out of right now. Albania, Kosovo, whichever country they can. I know a few of them. I think one was in Switzerland. I think Rigon was in Switzerland for a bit. I don't know if he's actually still there. But yeah, they basically live in luxury. So that's the reason why they haven't signed with an org. They've had plenty of offers, but they would just lose money. They end up, which wouldn't actually end up being worth it. I mean, we saw it happen with Nork and sticker money not too long ago. It's a bit of it's a tough bargain to like negotiate with the org and saying like, I'm gonna keep all the sticker money, or even like keeping all the prize money of the tournaments and stuff like that. Like that stuff just doesn't really happen. So for B&E, I can kind of see it. And even like CCT, right? Wasn't that like a 300k prize pool and they came second? So they're probably at least getting like 100k split, 5 ways? Not actually that, or maybe 6 ways with the coach. Not actually that bad. And CCT are meant to end up doing quite a few of them this year. B&E should always be at those playoffs, so they're always gonna have a little bit of cash in hand. I can kind of see why they don't want to sign with an org unless it's a stonking salary. But then that's where all the arguments about wage inflation come in. Aside from that, we've
got like one roster.
Wait, did we
move to
talk about static?
We're gonna
We've
do
got-
that now, I think.
We've got two
Oh,
roster
okay.
moves to talk about, and we've got my low light to talk about. Which one do
Okay.
you want to do first?
Do your low light.
Very, very quick one, because I
Yeah.
want to thrust this question to Nart very quickly. And this might be a quick one or not, because I don't know if you've got the right answer. But the mess that NIP is right
Yeah.
now, with their roster seemingly in disarray and pieces not having an identity whatsoever, Alexi looks like could be again on the end of a failure, even with the pieces he has with head trick and config. Do you think they need a lot more time and they're going to be okay, or have you seen anything from their Pro League demos that really, really concerns you?
I think they need more time. Honestly, we spoke of this a little bit earlier, but
Tiny bit, yeah.
Config, Rez, Brolin, those guys are just super inconsistent. Like, when was the last time you heard anything about them? And then Hetrick as a rookie coming in, Alexibi has a lot to work with, like, on his hands.
Yeah.
So I think they need some time, but I don't know how they're gonna look at the RMRs.
I
Like,
know.
they could bomb out, they could go 3-0. Like, who knows?
They worry you so much, right? Because Brolin doesn't
Yeah.
have the Fnatic form anymore. He doesn't have the Krieg era form. That's
Yeah.
just a simple fact of the
Yeah,
matter.
we haven't heard about Brolin in years. Like,
No, I know. And like, Rez is still, like you say, very streaky. I think you can see him at like 25-3, and sometimes you can see it 3-12. Like, he'll just pop up sometimes. Config is not the config we saw on Astralis when he was actually performing to a really good level, and Headtrick is brand new. So I agree with you. I mean, Paladin, what were you saying to me the other day about NIP? You said something to me. I can't actually remember what it is. If you did say if it was you or not, even, but you said something about that team just worrying you as well. Go ahead anyway.
Yeah,
if you've got something.
it doesn't feel like they really have an identity right now. And I think that the biggest thing for me is just how out of place Config is as a player. And I think if you can let Config off the leash and you can let him do what he wants and let him just run down mid like he was doing on Astralis on both halves, that's when I think this team gets very deadly. But right now, Config himself, I don't know if you've seen any of the interviews that they've discussed with him, but this guy doesn't even know the proper positions that
I know.
everybody is calling, and like
I
that
know.
alone is just so worrying.
Well-
Obviously, they've only played one tournament, right? And it's against competition that I think they should still beat, even if he doesn't know. Like I think
Yeah.
intuition should just
Yeah.
suggest it. But at the same time, I have to give credit to some of these teams. Their level has increased to such a point that they can catch off guard of a Config. And I gave that 0-0 Nation example. Config was the player that they abused regularly. So I feel like he is a big proponent as to why this team just doesn't work right now. But if you can figure out Config, like some of these teams have done very well, you will have a very, very deadly team. I think that's at that point, you can have Brolin and Rez do whatever they want to do. You can mold Hedrick slowly but surely, and you'll always have that aggressive piece of Config
Yeah.
to work with and to rely
Okay.
on.
Config
That's how I
still
feel
has
about
his playstyle on NIP. When I was watching demos, he was playing super aggressive. Like when down in player advantages, he would like randomly push, peak, like so.
Maybe Alexi
That-
hates that. Who knows? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
'Cause we don't know his system.
Exactly right. It's a very unorthodox player to be given to Alexi. Alexi doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
play with those types of players. Config is a one of a kind type of player, and so
Mhm.
you've got to figure a way out to work with this player. And if you can't figure it out, you've basically just given up an entire major cycle. So I think you've got to make do with what you have, and you've got a very, very powerful piece, but you've got to figure out how to use him. And I think very few
Yeah.
people have actually figured out how to do that.
In a similar way
Despite
to
them not
Astralis.
looking
Oh, go on.
good, Nukai, real quick, I still think they're gonna make the major. I think they're just gonna
I think it's
figure something
possible.
out.
Yeah, I mean, that was literally my talking about. I was going to say, in a similar way to Astralis, when do we start to maybe have a cutoff point? Because I think now we're starting to say for Astralis, kind of, okay, if these guys don't make LCQ at the very minute, let's say, for example, Astralis bomb out, then surely they've got to do something different, right? Surely they've got to make a change. I think for NIP, it's way earlier than, again, in that life cycle. But when do we maybe not, I don't think the majors damning, but I think they definitely should make challenges minimum. I feel like if they don't, they'll kick themselves. But then when there's a point where they maybe have a conversation, they're like, oh shit, okay, we actually need to do something. Something's not working here, and maybe it's once again Alexi who gets the boot, and who knows what happens. I feel like even Headtrick, I think I've seen a lot of people kind of calling on him, but he's anyone who watched him when he played in Na'Vi Academy, he was unbelievable. I know it's a different tier of talent, but the same sort of playstyle should transfer over. But he's just definitely not being. Again, it's kind of maybe a similar way to Zello. I don't think he's being utilized properly. I just feel like we're not seeing Headtrick play the way I've seen him play before. I know the talent and the level is different, but he's very, very good, and he's normally very aggressive as well.
Yeah.
But I think he's sometimes being maybe reined back in, or maybe it's also nerves as well. He's still a kid, so who knows?
Look, to me, I think that Hedrick is a better rifler than he is an opper. I think he's a fantastic rifler, and I just think his opping is super streaky. Like, there are certain situations where he hits some insane flicks, but he misses the easy ones. And sometimes he hits the really easy ones, and sometimes he misses the big flicks. You never know what you're going to get with him, but I feel as though every time I watch the Na'Vi Junior demo, I could always rely on him just being, like, on T side, he would actually avoid opping a lot of the times. He would just straight 5 rifle, and he would look so deadly just entering all across the map. And I think that NIP could love that. I honestly, personally, a dream scenario was just have him in for Nipple, but then just play in Na'Vi like the main roster. But I mean, if you have to make do with what you have right now, I think you've got to really cut some slack for him, just because of the kind of big talent jump. And then again, I don't think necessarily he is cut out to be an opper. I'm not saying that he's a bad opper by any means, but I think that they could definitely use him more of a hybrid, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
I guess we can finish things off with transfers, where everybody's kind of done there. I've just sent you all the link to kind of essentially.
I've got 3 pieces which I want to talk about.
Easy. I was essentially going to start from Azza up. I think there's actually quite a lot to talk about.
Okay.
From essentially the Azza row up on transfers. And I'll get this up. So obviously we've already talked about Azza joining Sprout. I think that's pretty good. I think for the most part we've already sort of run over that one. I think then IHC. I think this is actually a very interesting point that we didn't originally have on the docket, but I think it's definitely worth talking about because it's perplexing. So IHC dropped Score, not the other way around. I think so. Score let. No. So when the news came out that Score was being dropped from the roster, everybody, myself included, who's done a lot of Asian Counter-Strike in terms of casting recently, and of course has covered a lot of IHC domestically and then watched them play internationally, you all know that the score is just, without a shadow of doubt, one of the best players in his roster and one of the things that make them so deadly. So when he got dropped, I immediately thought, okay, someone else has picked him up. Someone else has come in. They've bought him out of his contract. Like, he's going big. And maybe even international, because I think he actually can speak English. So maybe he's going big. Like, he's been really impressive. Kato, he showed up. Domestically, always shows up. So I was like, okay, he's going sick. And then I had a bit of a conversation on Twitter with Blair, and we were going back and forth, like, what was going on. And someone linked a screenshot to Score's Instagram saying, where he had put up saying, oh, by the way, I didn't leave. I got dropped from the team. And then that put everybody into a very confused state. I don't know what kind of people's thoughts are on this, but they've dropped arguably one of their best players, if not the best player. It feels very weird.
Personal? It's got to be personal
It's
issues,
gotta
right?
be.
It's not performance.
It's got to be personal. It has to be.
Yeah. For me, the only thing that I'll give you one silver lining to this decision that I can think of off the top of my head before I'll let you take the floor is I think IHC are good enough to lose Score and still be the best team in their region, in my opinion. Yeah, that might be a bit of a questionable one.
See, I
because of how good
disagree. Yeah, I'd say Rare Atom are better.
But I still actually do think IHC will be the better team.
I also think Rare Atom will be better for a year. I think they've been better for a year. The only thing is they just, every single time they choke the last game. They always do it. I think pound for pound, I think Mercury, Jam Young, and Kaze are much better than IHC. Like, personally.
My issue is I don't think that form is replicable in the sense that, like, I'd much rather prefer Cabal's IHC than Advent's Rare Atom. Like, I don't have enough reliance on Advent's system in comparison to IHC, so that if they do lose a player like Score, even if you slot in a worse talent, I think that their floor is much higher than Rare Atom.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Rare Atom's floor could be much lower if you catch them on a bad day. Which, at the end of the day, when you get to the RMR and the pressure is on, that is where you're trying to dictate which team is best, is where their floor is at rather than their peaks, IMO.
Okay, fair enough. I think it's definitely interesting in this that they're bringing Cabal back in. Apparently there's been rumors about Hasteka coming in, who I know I've cast him not long ago. He played with Clutch Gaming. Yeah,
that's it.
the other Mongolian team, who, by the way, last time I covered Asian ECL, which is about 2-3 weeks ago, they were like 0-5, so not exactly doing well. They're about to go back in straight from ECL to ESEA Open, so not exactly a dream position with them. But I don't know. I feel like when you've got someone who's already LAN tenured and international game tenured, and you're bringing in this guy called Hasteka, who from my understanding and from my small amounts of research, doesn't seem to have a lot of international experience. It just seems so super weird to me. I don't get it doing it now, like so close to the RMR, basically, especially considering with how close the Asian RMR is, because it's so, only 2 spots, 8 teams. It's a much tougher competition. And Greyhound are playing okay. Rare Atom have been playing really well recently. They just qualified for Blast Spring. Like, I mean, they've been performing very well.
I think they'll find a way again, in my opinion. I think they'll find a way. I think they'll probably be at a level which is enough for at least to be above the Rare Atom and the Greyhound level, like you so mentioned. I think the Greyhound level is the issue, and I think that there's a genuine chance after what we've seen from them in Pro League, they could also just show up on one day randomly, like the boys and all that. Like, I really think that they can have that ability, but I still think Rare Atom and IHC are going to be my picks overall for sure.
Yeah, I think Greyhound are very shaky. I just think with their, like, they're so limited by their location, that just makes it so difficult to have an argument. But I would throw the argument out there that Rare Atom are better than IHC. But regardless of the score change, I think they are anyway. I think it's just the case that Rare Atom just seem to be land dodgers, basically. They seem to, like, choke out at the last second every time. I don't know. Do you watch any Asian Counter-Strike demos? I think you're probably
I don't.
You're probably saving your mental. It's a good thing. You're not missing out on much.
Okay.
It's like watching a Fnatic demo from 2015. It's the same meta.
It's that.
It's very
that
aggressive.
outdated.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive Counter-Strike and very. Like, did you see the clip of the Rare Atom retake on Nuke?
I saw that.
That one.
Okay.
That's basically what you should expect from all Asian counter. They go for retake.
It's just
there's no
that,
saving.
that was so random.
They've never
There's
watched
no
a Jave
saving.
demo in their life.
No, there is like no joke. I remember I did the IEM Rio qualifiers like a month ago, whatever, for Asia, and it was IHC, Rare Atom, Lim Vision, Eruption, like all the guys that are in the RMR playing, and genuinely there was like one day, I think the first day, where it was like a quarterfinal and a semi-final, or whatever. Not one save the entire day. It was crazy. They do not care. They don't care. IHC are the only team who are different, who play like an EU style, but like Eruption, who are another Mongolian team, no saving, didn't give a shit. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I guess it's cool to see different styles then.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch. Like don't get me wrong. I would watch 1,000 IHC demos over one Outsiders demo. Do not get me wrong.
Oh my dude!
Don't get me wrong.
Oh my gosh!
you're.
I dread. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like blasphemy to Nart. What you just said there.
For sure.
Yeah.
What you enjoy an Outsiders demo or not?
I have to like hold my fast forward bind.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so boring. Oh my god, casting them is just an absolute snooze fest. But yeah, I guess we can go on from there on to just above, which is Copenhagen Flames. This is probably one of the most confusing roster moves in a long time. Copenhagen Flames benched Regali, who was standout their best player, like not even close, their best player. The only thing that made Copenhagen Flames actually a competent team, and when they won back-to-back CCTs and an EDC as well, it came with Regali dropping like a 1.38 performance. And they bench him to bring in Farley. Like, I don't know. Like,
did they come out with a reason, or do we know
no,
what happened?
Performance issues.
Performance issues,
come on.
which is bonkers because on paper he is the best player. Not even on paper, the eye test he's the best player as well.
That's crazy.
So it obviously isn't performance issues. It's obviously personal issues.
Yeah.
And they probably just run an all Danish 5, but then Regali speaks Danish and he lives in Denmark. So I don't really get it either. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I fully don't understand this. But I think Regali's. Obviously, it's quite rough for him because he's still locked into like a 2-year long contract. So it's he's still got quite a lot of time left on his contract. I don't know what his buyout's looking like.
Prospect.
Yeah,
like, he's the hottest prospect in Tier 2 and has been for a while. So the fact that he's now not on an active roster is wild. As you say, I probably would assume that Copenhagen plans to put a decent buyout on him. So that's going to be hard for him to get an upgrade.
That's unfortunate for him.
So he probably might be benched for quite a while, as you say, which is a shame. But what I will say is that Farley has integrated into the team, not obviously as well as Regali has been playing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say for 1 second that I think Farley's better. I actually think, though, that in the system, Farley is integrated okay.
No, he was good.
It wasn't a terrible choice. I think he's been playing all right. To push to the next level without Regali, I'm not sure. But right now, it's at least more sideways of a move than I expected.
I mean, realistically, they just qualify as a Blast Spring, so you actually can't take it away from them. They played well. I think they're very fortunate that Sprout are shaky because Sprout should have qualified. I mean, they were the clear out and out favorites. But I think so. Like, this move is not me shitting on Farley because I don't actually think Farley's too bad of a pickup. I think it's the other way. It's like it's dropping Regali. He's, like you said, the hottest prospect in Tier 2. I think at the moment in terms of. Well, in my eyes, he still was the hottest prospect, but then the other one was Nerts. And of course, Nerts has now naturally made that step up. Regali was destined the same way MHL, a lot of people were kind of saying this guy's destined as well at some point. Even had the links to Liquid not too long ago. Yeah. I kind of feel bad for him because I feel like there's now a world in which we don't see Regali play for maybe even like a year, or maybe even longer. So like he might get the bench treatment for a long time. I think his contract's like a couple of years left, and if it's personal issues, obviously not going to bring him back in, regardless of performance or not. So, I don't know. It's a very puzzling transfer, but it's also very rough because it's limiting a player who right now is in the prime of his career, like absolute peak, hitting the absolute maximum. I mean, his like recent run of form. I look at his stats now. He is currently last 3 months before getting benched, having a 1.14, which isn't too bad. And then overall, over the last 6 months, 1.2 rating. Last 12 months, 1.2 as well. I mean, it's pretty good stats for Tier 2. And from the eye test, like, he's been unbelievable. So, to say his performance issues, I think pretty much everybody can probably agree it's not true. It's a lie. It's definitely something else happened there.
Bullshit counter, bullshit detector.
Yeah, exactly.
Level.
But having your performance issues on your best player makes no sense. So I don't know, but I don't think Farley's
well,
bad.
not necessarily performance issues. It was, I think their wording was more like a performance-based decision, which is still strange.
Well,
right?
I guess they have been losing a lot recently, so
Well,
there is those performances that are not good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Not Paladin, any thoughts?
Yeah, that just sucks that Regali got benched and how well, like you guys were saying, how well he was playing. And then with Farley coming in, he played decent with FPX, but when he went to Astralis, he had his up and downs. So hopefully, he turns a leaf here with the Flames.
I think it's his level. I think Copenhagen
Yeah.
Flames is his level. I don't think he can go higher. I don't think he has the ability. But I think upper end of tier 2 is all right. That's where I think he stands.
But yeah,
Okay,
it just sucks.
Paladin.
It just sucks for Regali.
No, I think it's good for Farley in the sense that I think that now he has literally no pressure on him whatsoever. And I think that was a huge issue as to why he struggled on Astralis. And also, I don't even think they used him properly. Like, they didn't stick to his proper identity and what made him so good on FPX and Godsend previously. But now, I mean, I think sky's the limit for him. And if Copenhagen Flames can at least keep the same trajectory that they're at right now, kind of turn some heads at Blast Showdown, I think it'll be really good for him. And I think it might just inadvertently be really good for Regali too, just because he's came from that system. They know that the organization's good. He's already produced really good results from them previously. So I think there's a world where this could be good for all parties. But I think that a lot of things have to go right. And I think you could have cut out a lot of these issues if you just kept Regali. But I don't really know what happened into the team. You don't know how much he might have clashed with Bird from Sky. That's also a possibility that just mentally just were not philosophy-wise, they weren't on the same page. So I think that's probably what happened. They just didn't see eye to eye in terms of the game itself.
Happens.
I was gonna say, are they going to the RMR? But I just remember they're not.
Yeah,
that's the biggest. Like, that was their one goal, right? They had all their wonderful CCT and online performances at the end of last year. It was like, okay, they're gonna kick on now. RMR has to be a must. And guess what? They bomb out, and obviously they're all the shitters in HLTV comments are saying, "Oh, Radar from Sky wants to dodge lands, ha ha ha." All that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a shame, but. Regali wanted it, didn't get it, and now he's benched, which makes you feel bad for him for sure.
Yeah, that's a good transition to his old team, right? Static, with Cabby being benched and Nodius joins.
Yeah, I mean that one.
I don't know nothing about these players. You guys could tell me.
it was just a slightly questionable one because Cabby wasn't really an issue. Again, it was like he was actually pretty good. Like he was like in terms of Ecstatic, they are so mid, right? For the like they're just not a team you sing about. I mean, they got 60-0 at the last RMR. They're not exactly anything to write home about. Granted, it was G2, but they're just an average team. They're kind of mid. Okay. They lack consistency, and then they drop one of the most consistent players on the team. It was kind of weird in my eyes. Not that I really care, because I don't really care about Ecstatic, because they're just so average. Like, they're not going to ever... Like, they're not ever going to be... You're basically not... You're never going to watch a demo of them, mate. They're never going to get...
Are they at this RMR coming up?
No.
Okay.
No. They're not good.
I think you should never touch Manx, Kragan, and Cabby. I think those three players can kind of stay. I think they all showed pretty good signs. I think Phoenix is completely outdated at this point. I think Salazar is not a good operator by any stretch of the imagination. And then you bring in Nodios, who has already seen a lot of kind of upper level play. Like, he played with CPH Flames. He's played with AGF before. He tested with Titans as well. And so, he's played with, bigger talents, but he's not shown any signs of, actually making that step up. So now it just feels like you're making a downgrade, and maybe 6 months ago this would have made sense, or a year ago this would have made sense. But at this point, I think it's too little too late.
Because Cabby, historically, I actually thought he wasn't that great. Then he had a really good period, toward the end, sort of mid last year and then the beginning of this year, where his numbers were really good. So I was kind of surprised at that one too. It's a shame. I
don't know where he goes, but he probably just goes Tricked, won't he? They just rotate.
Yeah, the thing that's sad about Ecstatic in general, and just actually sad for Cabby, is that they had this incredible run to somehow pop out of nowhere and qualify for ESL Challenger Melbourne, right? Cabby would have been absolutely delighted, and then Bosch, he's gone and doesn't get to have a trip down under, which is
Yeah, that was the
actually
other
very
questionable
painful.
one. It was he gets dropped after they qualify. It was like they've just
Yes.
qualified. It's probably the best thing that they. I mean, barring the RMR, probably the biggest thing that they had. Definitely the biggest thing that they remotely had on the docket for the year. And they drop them straight off there. I don't know. It just kind of feels kind of weird to me. I think I don't read if there's any reasoning behind it, but it once again makes me kind of feel like personal issues in the team, maybe something like that. I don't know. I think the biggest problem in Ecstatic easily is Salazar. I think everybody knows this. Anybody
Mike
watches
loves
their
him.
games. I don't know why. He
Mike loves
saw
Salazar.
he saw one game. He saw one game. He definitely has to see more than one game because Jesus Christ, like
Yeah.
I casted him the whole weekend, and you know, no flame to the guy like on his own, but he's not good. Like he just isn't a good AWPer, especially coming from a region which has a lot of good AWPers. I would if I'm Ecstatic, I would much rather take Lucky from Tricked. Bearing in mind, Tricked are in massive financial problems now, where they've had to scale back all their operations. And I'm sure those buyouts are absolutely low as, right? Which is probably why they got no Dios anyway, because he came from Tricked.
Just Tricked getting 16-0'd by some randoms, like I said. So like, you know,
yeah,
like, move on.
I'm sure I'd rather have Lucky than Salazar, but I don't know. I feel like yeah. I mean, for Cabby, I don't think it's gonna be at the end from him. He's got Masonic written all over him. Let's be honest. They just trade left, right, and center. He'll go to like Masonic or Tricked. Or something like that. Maybe you're not Prosopia if they stick around.
I've got one more, Neo. I want to put the question to the group, right? Who takes Inters?
I was going to bring out that last one, of course, like announced yesterday, right? You know, Cloud did the tweet. If it wasn't for in my eyes, if it wasn't for a certain geopolitical situation, Na'Vi, without a shadow of a doubt, should take Inters and get rid of NPC, and then we're all living happy. But
they do have the best names, Na'Vi.
I know.
They have the best names. Sompel, NPC, and Defecto. Just have to be up there. For
Defecto
the
really.
There's no way.
Oh, Defecto is so good. It just rolls off the tongue brilliantly.
Look, Travis, I know you might not like this. This might make you very mad. But one win for Travis.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that's not awful. I will say, but the thing is,
you don't get the stickers.
One, I don't get the stickers if One Win make it, and two, I actually think Travis is one of the better performers on One Win right now. Genuinely,
they're a little bit all over the place.
Travis has been better than Boomich for sure.
Yeah, especially considering Boomich isn't calling. I remember when One Win started playing immediately, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's okay, you know, Boomich is calling." He's not. Nickelback's calling, so he's just a pure rifler, and he's not playing that well. So, I can understand that. I can kind of see that, but I don't know where he goes. Would he want to drop his level, or would he rather?
I think he has no option.
He did say he could go to EU and maybe speak English.
Does he speak good enough English?
I don't know.
Maybe if outsiders start falling, maybe for kicker. I don't know.
True.
No, I don't. I think firepower wise, it's a downgrade, which is the biggest issue for me. It's like for outsiders, it's like at this point, anything that they need is like the only thing they need now is firepower. I think to jump up the ranks. I think fundamentally they understand the game very well. I think Kyron is doing very well.
Oh
for
yeah,
them.
for sure. Kyron is really good, honestly.
Gremlin.
He just needs to fix that posture. Oh my lord, Jesus!
Wait, what's his
Christ.
posture? Show me.
Brother, Google it. Oh my god, Google Kyron posture, whatever it is. Wait, Kyron posture, CS:GO. It's so bad.
Right
okay, he's leaned forward.
No, he hunches basically, like
Yeah,
shoulders
he's
up,
like this,
and his
like...
hands are like that on the keyboard, and it's like his back is like this. It's crazy. Like when it first happened, everyone was spamming the troll emoji in Twitch.
That means he's trying really hard. He goes from the reclining and then to
yeah, me on FIFA when I'm 1-0 up, when it goes 1-1, like sit in. But no, he has one of the worst postures I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I don't mind that call though. I think that's not a bad. I understand the firepower is an issue, but I actually don't think kicker is that. Amazing.
I was about to say his kicker. I don't know, like he doesn't provide that crazy firepower.
No, I
feel
don't
like
think Kiket's that great, so I think that's an easy option.
Yeah.
I think, and if I'm pretty sure Inters had put in his tweet that it was like NA/ No, sorry, EU/CIS/whatever he said after that. So I'm pretty sure he's open
go
to like
anywhere.
an English speaking team, which does make it particularly
I,
interesting.
Where the
I
hell-
think he'd rip his hair out if he came to NA. So like, please
Yeah,
don't come to NA.
avoid it,
For
brother.
your sanity. Don't
Where the
come.
hell has Sanji been?
Did he call off his comeback?
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
I remember a tweet like not too long ago, Sanji saying something like he like just
Yeah.
wasn't coming back or whatever. Like at the moment. I'm trying to think what like the only other teams that I was thinking that Inters could go to, but they obviously don't need him or want him, is like a team like a Force or like a Spirit. You know what I mean? But I don't think either of them need Inters. But that like level
February
two.
23rd, the contract is over. What's next? Not going to play. Thank you for all your support.
Oh,
Oh, so he's just not coming back.
all
Rest in
right.
peace, Sanji.
Okay,
What
damn.
James does to him, man.
What James telling you to pick up a deagle and drop him an AWP. What that does to the sanity.
Those are the craziest times when he was on that team.
Oh, I
Just
felt
doing
so
whatever
bad.
James says.
Sonny.
Oh my god.
He'd live on the MP9. When you saw him with an M4, something was badly wrong.
Yeah. Like you knew for a fact that like you'd have to check the scoreline. If you saw that Sanji was on an M4, you were like, okay, so they're up by 5 then. They've got a good amount of like they got a decent little economy going here. Poor guy, man. I think his mental's probably just broken from that. Like I don't blame him either.
Okay.
And also getting dropped and they win the major like not too long after. I'd be fuming. I'd be fucking fuming. So I can fully understand it.
Oh yeah, Norbert.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what Norbert's going to do. They kind of said they're going to use him as a 6th man, but I'd feel like that again. It is time's limited. Let's be honest.
Like if Chiron wasn't going to work out, we bring Norbert back. Like
Yeah, but then Kyron's actually doing all right
Yeah,
now.
Chiron's doing good, so that's not gonna happen. Yeah.
I don't have too much faith in Kyron. I watched a lot of his stuff prior in Aurora, and I didn't think he was all that. So
Oh, I watched his stuff in the Academy League. What team was he on? I can't remember.
Spirit Academy. Yeah,
Spirit?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
he played pretty good there.
Yeah, but the
That's-
only thing is, and this is the argument I made when they picked him up, every single team that Kyron has played for, the second he has left, they've instantly played better. Like instantly. Spirit Academy, second he leaves, they go back-to-back seasons finishing 2nd overall. Aurora, second he leaves, 20-match win streak, best team in Tier 2, everybody's scared of them.
Sure.
So that's the only thing. Not that indicates by any means that he was the problem or whatever, obviously, because he wouldn't be being picked up. But I just think, there's got to be something. He's got to have definitely been holding him back in some way. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Spirit Academy one can be a bit skewed because you still have the pieces of what did he? Was Donk and Artfrost on the team? While
I don't know if Donk
on the team?
was. I think
But
Donk
either
was probably
way-
too young. So I don't actually
Yeah, I
think
was
Donk
gonna
was.
say, but like either way, you have Donk and Artfrost, right? So
Yeah, and
like,
also
you-
this
you're
new
gonna
guy now as
improve.
well. Whoever I just saw CCT, the tweet I sent you guys. Like, there's another guy on Spirit Academy now who's dropping like a 1.3 rating in their most
the
recent.
hell?
Zontix.
Zontix, that's it. Sorry, they got Donk, this guy called Zontix, who I haven't seen anything of, and then
Donk is a
Artfrost
great
as well.
name, though.
I know Donk's brilliant, and he's 16 as well. Oh my
Donk
god,
be dinking.
yeah, he is just seriously good. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like but not that I hate Kyron. I actually think he's pretty talented. I just don't think I'm I'm not fully convinced yet. I just want to make sure the honeymoon period's over,
Fair enough.
and then I'll see. But lads, I think that more or less.
Oh,
More or less, I'm still
damn.
been a bit of a marathon, even though we said it wasn't going to be.
Bruh.
Yeah, even though we said it wasn't.
That was a
gonna be.
marathon.
Right. So, final things before we go. What you guys getting up to for the next, I guess, couple of weeks?
Source
Neo,
two?
Neo, I think you've got more than we've all got put together because you're going somewhere special.
Portugal. I am.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, are you going for vacation?
I am. Yeah. 24th.
Oh, holiday.
Yeah. 3 days. Oh, 3 days. Oh, it's gone past
Hey,
midnight.
congrats.
Going to Portugal for a week. Going to play in a beach volleyball tournament.
Okay, have fun. Have fun.
Yeah. So I'm going to Lisbon for the first 3 days, just with like my group of mates. Like it's like 8 of us, and we got like an Airbnb, and then there's like a 4-day beach volleyball tournament, and then you normally go home. So people are just coming like it's 27th to like to the 1st or whatever, or the 31st even. And people just come and play for the tournament and go home, or like come on the day and then leave on the 31st or whatever. But we're going out on the 24th, staying for a bit, going there on the 31st, doing this little tournament, do this tournament on the 27th, sorry, to the 31st, and then afterwards just staying for another couple of days. And we got like an Airbnb which is like a massive villa with like a pool and a water slide and deck chairs and stuff. So it's gonna have some vibes.
I bigged you up, but we get it now. Okay?
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I take a break from CS as well.
For sure.
So not be bad. Not what about you? Up to much for the next couple of weeks?
Me, I'm just waiting for Source 2, honestly, if it comes out. Otherwise, I'm just
Tomorrow.
gonna be, grinding these demos.
Yeah.
Per usual.
As
Yeah.
per usual. You obviously
Yeah.
you just released a video today, right? 50 tips and tricks, was it? I was like, I saw you put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the video. What was it?
Yeah, it's a trick video. So what I did now, like starting about a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
like so my videos were pertain to only the competitive scene, like competitive players, which make up a small percentage
Yeah.
of the CS:GO player base. So now I started incorporating covering updates on like the CS:GO game itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've been doing I did 2 videos on that, and that's been working out really well to attract the
Nice.
casual base to help grow my channel.
There we go. I mean, NartOutHere,
Yep.
ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you probably already know him, of course, if you're here. But if you don't already, NartOutHere. It's all linked below. You can see his out on screen as well. All the good stuff. Trav Paladin.
Thank you
What,
guys.
what you boys up to next couple of
You go
weeks?
first, Paladin.
Yeah, I've got a bit going on just this week in particular, but I'm doing ECL playoffs, and then I think I have like 4 best of 3s, so a pretty chunky amount. And then I'm doing a watch party with a lot of industry veterans: Thorin, Richard, not Richard, Semler, Bleb, Maui Snake, Alan Hecker.
Damn.
Really excited to be a part of that. That'll start tomorrow morning at the time of this recording, and then I'll be on Friday, Saturday as
Wait,
well.
what time do the matches start tomorrow?
9:30.
Oh, okay,
Morning.
okay.
So bright and early, but I hope you guys check it out.
Yeah, for
super
sure.
Excited to be a part of it. But yeah, that's me, and I'll upload a couple more videos in the pipeline.
Easy.
I've got an ECL match tomorrow actually. It's gonna be during Pro League, unfortunately, but not
Yeah,
during the
it's
banger matches of the
Mm.
day. It's gonna be Pain Liquid and 00 Nation Navi, the 2 evening games, and my game for ECL playoffs is Monty versus Apex. So if you're interested in Monty versus Apex, probably one of the better games actually
It
in
is,
the
to be
ECL
fair.
playoffs, I will say,
Cool.
with SDY, Sticko, Jacob, JL all in action, Nork as well. Pop along and have a look at that one. Other than that, I believe my match probably after that, or my next cast, will be, I believe, Dallas Quals, because I won't be doing a podcast before then, so it'll be, I'm doing South America, which I do believe has 9Z, 00 Nation. What's the other team, Paladin?
Fluxo.
Fluxo, thank you.
Fluxo are pretty good, to be fair.
And then
Yeah,
I've got some
Fluxo's
EU.
good.
I've got some EU as well.
There
So
we go.
yeah, Dallas quals should be pretty stacked. EU quals for Dallas in particular are pretty stacked. They've got Spirit, Cloud9, Fnatic, OG, I believe, before the qualifiers begin. And on the 22nd, which is not tomorrow but the day after, I will probably try and stream some of those and Dallas open quals for at least the first open qual, because that's stacked.
Easy.
NIP are in the open qual, which shows where they're at right now.
You never thought you'd see a day. Never thought you'd see a day. That more or less sums up. I've got EU ECL on the 23rd. I don't know who I'm doing yet because I don't think the games have been decided.
Yeah.
So
We need
who
to win
knows?
these next games first.
Exactly. So who knows?
Yeah.
But that's my last one before I bon voyage for a bit. We will be back post RMR is the date. Sometime after the 16th. We'll be back. Probably, I would say. I think I've got Elisa straight away afterwards, which I've just been notified of. So it's looking like it's going to be probably 23 verse or like that. So it's going to be probably about a month. So we're not sticking to the 2-week schedule. We're sorry, unfortunate. However, we've got an RMR prediction video coming out in the next couple of days. So stick around for that. Either way, for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being the first ever guest that we've had on.
For sure. Thank you guys.
It's been a
Hall of
marathon.
Famer.
Hall of Famer. It's been a marathon episode,
stop
brother.
it.
You joined in for a long one, so my God. But cheers for joining us, of course, brother, and everyone at home. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, go and check out all of these guys here. If you're watching on Twitch, same old, same old. The links are all below. Apart from if you're on Twitch, you have to check out the ads on screen. Either way, thank you for joining us. We'll see you all soon.
Bye.